Chapter 2805. Negotiation required skills. To achieve a certain goal, one must hide one's true intentions. Otherwise, if one's trump card was known, one would be at a disadvantage in the negotiation. Luli didn't want much, just Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long. Also, he wanted to leave in safety. He believed that compared to the peak of Goddess Empress, the two were insignificant. If Luli really wanted them, he would give them all 35 Shadow Queen, let alone the two. Female disciples could be trained again. The Holy Lady sect couldn't afford the cost if anything happened to the peak of Goddess Empress, let alone the destruction of the peak of Goddess Empress. The movie queen's personality was very arrogant. If Luli wanted to threaten her about something else, she would rather die with Lu Li than bow her head. But the peak of Goddess Empress was too important for the Holy Lady sect. If she had to choose between the Shadow Queen and the peak of Goddess Empress, the master of the Holy Lady sect would sacrifice the Shadow Queen without any hesitation. Therefore, Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long were nothing compared to the peak of Goddess Empress. Lu Li, hearing Lu Li's words, Dong Yang's expressions changed. There was panic in his eyes. He almost ran away. He knew the importance of the peak of Goddess Empress to the Holy Lady sect. If the Shadow Queen really killed him, then he would die in vain. Young Master Dong Yang, don't panic. The Shadow Queen threw Dong Yang a casual look. Then she took a deep breath and said to Lu Li, you have to understand one thing. Dong Yang is our honored guest. If we kill him, it will be a declaration of war against the Fuyao sect. So, no one would agree to this. Also, I advise you not to go too far. Our master already knows about this. Do you believe that our master can stop the peak of Goddess Empress from exploding? All right. Lu Li shrugged his shoulders and said, then I won't kill Dong Yang for now. I will take his life myself. What about the first condition? If you don't agree to this, then there is nothing to talk about. Kill me now. Clear the place. The Shadow Queen didn't answer Lu Li's words. She waved her hand. The patriarchs of the Holy Lady sect started to move and asked the onlookers to leave. The 100,000 spectators outside wanted to continue watching, but the elders of the Saintly Goddess sect were angry. They knew that today's matter was very shameful for the Saintly Goddess sect. They did not want this matter to spread out. The 100,000 people were forcibly driven away by a group of elders and female disciples, and they quickly left. There were also elders who asked Hua Tiandao and the others to leave. He asked them to stay in the Holy Woman City for the time being. When the matter here was settled, he would invite them to attend the banquet. More than 100,000 people were evacuated within the time it took for a few sticks of incense to burn. The outer sect elders and martial emperors were also invited away. Only warriors of the Holy Maiden sect were left here. Lu Ling and the other 35 beauties were all here. Apart from Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long, the others were nervous. Lu Li had specifically asked for them, which concerned their fate. Naturally, they were nervous. When everyone left, Shadow Queen looked at Lu Li coldly and said, Lu Li, do you know how much the reputation of the Holy Goddess sect will be affected after today? It doesn't matter that you ruined our Hua Yang discourse of Tao, but you still want our female disciples? Do you know how excessive you are? Are you sure you'll be able to return to the Heavenly Emperor's sect safely with us 35 disciples? Ha ha ha. Lu Li grinned and said, I believe I can go back. It is better for you to escort me back in person. If I cannot go back, then none of you will have a good time. All right. Shadow Queen sneered and said, even if you can go back safely, can you stay at the Heavenly Emperor's sect for the rest of your life? Do you believe that we will send powerful warriors to assassinate you? Don't waste your breath. Lu Li said in a domineering manner. If you want to kill me, do it now. Don't waste your breath. Are you going to give me the disciples or not? If not, I will leave. Domineering, arrogant, insufferably arrogant. That was how everyone felt about Lu Li. It was incongruous, even harsh, to hear such words coming from Lu Li's mouth. If Lu Li were a Saint Emperor, he would be domineering. But now, he was making people uncomfortable. Those present were all patriarchs and martial emperors of the Holy Maiden sect. When had they ever been bullied like this? Not to mention being bullied by a mere disciple. Shadow Queen thought about it and said, 35 is not possible. You can only take one disciple away at most. Also, we can give you some Saintis pellets and materials as compensation. 1. Luli snorted and said, "Never mind. I will do you a favor. I will take 5, and you give me 100 Saintis pellets. When I am at a safe place, I will return the Peak of Goddess. You can send a martial emperor with me." "No way." Shadow Queen's almond-shaped eyes were wide open. "A martial emperor with you? If you go back to the Heavenly Emperor's sect, how can we go back? By then, we will be gone, and our holy weapons will be gone. Let's talk about this later. I can choose 5 beauties, and I will give you 100 Saintis pellets. Is that okay?" Luli asked. The beauties were upset. They had become goods. Although they were goods themselves, Luli was asking for as many as he wanted in front of them. This made them very uncomfortable. 3 disciples, Shadow Queen replied and bargained. "I will give you 30 Saintis pellets at most, and you can take 3 disciples away. Nothing more." "Deal." Luli agreed readily. He waved his hand and said, "Now let's talk about the deal. It is not realistic to give you the Peak of Goddess here. How about we make a compromise? Let's go to a dynasty between the Heavenly Emperor sect and the Saintis sect. How about you send a martial emperor with me?" "No." The Shadow Queen rejected decisively. If the Celestial Emperor sect were to send experts over to receive them, the female Empress Peak would be snatched away. If the Celestial Emperor sect obtained the female Empress Peak, it would be like adding wings to a tiger, and the female Sage sect would suffer huge losses. "You can't do this or that." Luli was angry. He shouted, "Then say it. I will not return the Peak of Goddess until I am absolutely safe. Don't treat me like a fool." Shadow Queen was in a dilemma. She thought for a while and said, "How about this? You give the Peak of Goddess to me now and let your goblin out. I promise you that the Peak of Goddess will not be damaged. I can take an almighty oath that I will not go after you for 3 years. You could go back to the Heavenly Emperor's sect in 3 years, right? I trust you." Shadow Queen was relieved by Luli's answer. But what he said next almost made her lose her temper. He said, "The thing is, I don't trust anyone else. How about you ask all the martial emperors and saint kings of the Saintis sect to take an almighty oath?" Shadow Queen sneered. "Luli, are you an idiot? Do you think it is possible? Then go to the holy city of Goddess on behalf of the Saintis sect and make an announcement in front of everyone." Luli gave in again and said, "There are many powerful warriors from different forces in the holy city of Goddess. Go and make an announcement. Say that the Saintis sect will not go after me for 3 years, and I will return the holy weapon to you in the holy city of Goddess." Okay. Shadow Queen realized that this was the only way Luli could be assured. The Peak of Goddess could not leave the sphere of influence of the Saintis sect. Otherwise, if the Peak of Goddess was taken away by the powerful warriors of the Heavenly Emperor's sect, she would have to kill herself to apologize to the ancestors of the Saintis sect. She sneered to herself. The Saintis sect would not go after him, but it didn't mean that the Saintis sect's allies couldn't. It didn't mean that she couldn't ask some demons to go after him. Chapter 28:06. Yanzu had been troubled recently. He had promised to help Lu Li, and he wanted to help Lu Li from the bottom of his heart. As long as they could help Lu Li this time, when Lu Li rose up in the future, the Hu family would reap boundless benefits. Lu Li was going to participate in the tournament. Today was the day of the finals. He did not go to the Mount of Huayang, nor was he in the holy city of women. Instead, he was staying in a small town near the holy city of women with several powerful warriors that the Hu family had recruited at great cost. He was preparing for Plan B. If Lu Li failed, then he would help Lu Li steal the girl. If he failed to take Lu Li away, then he would have to die. When he died, the Hu family would owe Lu Li a favor. As long as Lu Li could make it back, he would always remember the kindness of the Hu family. His worries stemmed from his lack of confidence. Of course, he would not go to Huayang Peak to snatch people, not to mention the few of them. Even if all the experts of the Hu family came, it would be a dead end. Even if Lu Li failed, someone else would succeed. Ling Long and Lu Ling were the top beauties. The number 1 had 3 choices, so it was very likely that 2 of them would be chosen. After choosing her, she would definitely have to go back. It was impossible for her to consummate the marriage here, right? This was not a trivial matter. It would certainly be a grand event. The Saintes sect would certainly send their powerhouses to attend the ceremony. This gave Yanzu a chance. He had already investigated clearly. Hua Tiandao, Wen Xiang, Dong Ying, Tu Ying, and the others only had one arch following them. If they didn't directly open the domain gate to return, they would have to use the teleportation formation to leave. They would have to go to the dark castle near their sect and open the domain gate to return. If they teleported all the way, then their chance would come. They could choose to ambush them along the way. He would distract the Emperor Realm warrior, and then the warriors he gathered would cooperate with Lu Li to take Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong away. He didn't care if he could run away or not. As long as he could get the girl and Lu Li and the others away, everything would be perfect. The problem was, what if the winner was either Linglong or Lu Ling? What if they directly let the saintly girl sect open the domain gate and send them back? Then all his arrangements would be meaningless. This was what troubled him the most. He sat cross-legged in the castle, his face expressionless, but his heart was extremely anxious. The person he sent to gather intelligence had not returned yet, so he could only wait patiently. According to the information they had received, Lu Li had already entered the finals. There was a high chance that he would take first place, but the problem was that there was a high chance that Lu Li's identity would be exposed, so everything was unknown. This short period of time was torture for him. Buzz! A teleportation array in the castle lit up, and Yanzu's eyes revealed a trace of joy. The person who went to investigate the situation had returned. He didn't have time to wait for that person to come over. He rushed out in a flash and asked, "How is it?" That person's face was filled with excitement as he took in a deep breath before saying, "Young Master Lu has succeeded. It's done." Yanzu was relieved, and the stone in his heart also fell. But the next second, the man continued, "Young Master Lu won first place, but his identity was exposed. He didn't have the chance to take the two ladies away. However, young Master Lu actually controlled Empress Peak. Earlier on, Saintly Sect Shadow Empress personally said in front of the entire city that Saintly Sect would not pursue young Master Lu for the next 3 years. I even found out that there are 3 beauties standing beside young Master Lu, and the 2 young misses are among them." "What? What did you say? Empress Peak?" Yanzu thought he heard it wrong, so he quickly asked the man to tell him the news in detail. After that, Yanzu's face was still full of disbelief. After all, Empress Peak was too famous. It was the most precious treasure of the saintly sect. How could Lu Li control it? It was more like a fantasy story. Yanzu paced up and down in the castle. After some thoughts, he said, "Go to the secret castle of the Eastern Cloud Dynasty at once and build a space gate as soon as possible. Don't teleport too far away. Just teleport to the Ancient Moon Dynasty. Then send a message to the Ancient Moon Dynasty to build a space gate and go back to the Celestial Emperor's city directly." Yanzu didn't care how Lu Li did it. What he had to think about now was how to bring Lu Li back safely. As long as he could go back, the Hu family would have made a great contribution. Not only would Lu Li be grateful, but the Celestial Emperor's sect wouldn't pursue the matter, because Lu Li had made the Celestial Emperor's sect proud. "Let's go. Take me to the saintly city and find Lu Li." Yanzu grabbed the scout and stepped into the teleportation formation. Since it seemed that the saintly sect would not pursue Lu Li, then he had no more concerns. He must go to Lu Li at once to protect him. The saintly city of Saintly Girl was bustling with noise and excitement. The 100,000 warriors all came back and none left. There were still many in the city who weren't qualified to go to the peak of Huayang, millions of them. Since so many people had gone to the peak of Huayang, the news could not be kept a secret. The news had spread out. But the conversation between Lu Li and Shadow Queen could not be heard because the saintly sect had cleared the place. When Shadow Queen came with Lu Li and shouted in public, everyone in the city knew the result of their discussion. Shadow Queen and the saintly sect had reached a compromise and struck a deal with Lu Li. In other words, the saintly sect had surrendered, just like a disciple of the Celestial Emperor's sect had surrendered and admitted defeat. Shadow Queen had come to the city in person and said that she wouldn't go after Lu Li for 3 years, which meant that the saintly sect had completely failed. A major sect, the second largest in the world, had surrendered to a disciple. This was unprecedented. This was destined to go down in history and become a disgrace that the saintly sect could never erase. But everyone could understand. After all, this was about the peak of Goddess. If it were some other treasures, or even Shadow Queen herself, it would be impossible for Lu Li to force the saintly sect to surrender even if he had Shadow Queen as a hostage. The saintly sect would rather lose Shadow Queen than to kill Lu Li and tear him apart. The Peak of Goddess was one of the assets of the saintly sect, and one of the reasons why the saintly sect could survive for so many years. The saintly sect would not allow anything to happen to the Peak of Goddess. The temporary damage to the reputation could not shake the foundation of the saintly sect. But if something happened to the Peak of Goddess, then the foundation would be shaken. Lu Li showed up at the saintly city with 3 beauties. Lu Ling, Xiang Ling Long, and a girl named Wu Qianwu was also one of the 4 beauties. Lu Li had chosen this one at random. This time, Shadow Queen was straightforward. It was just a few beauties. The saintly sect was not short of beauties. They could train more beauties later. Shadow Queen removed the saintly goo from the 3 warriors in front of everyone in the city. As for Shadow Queen, it didn't make any difference whether she removed the saintly goo or not. As far as she was concerned, Lu Li and the 3 warriors would soon become dead men. Okay now, Shadow Queen was an outstanding talent. She knew when to yield and when to stand tall. After removing the saintly goo from the 3 warriors, she extended her hand and said, Lu Li, I have done what I promised you. Now, it is your turn to fulfill your promise. Wait a bit longer. Lu Li smiled. He was waiting for Yin Zhu. He believed that Yin Zhu would come back soon. Even though Yin Zhu was no match for Shadow Queen, he would feel more secure with a warrior of the great Emperor realm around. Whoosh! Not long afterward, there came a gust of wind. Yin Zhu showed up next to Lu Li. He was covered in a cloak. The cloak was a piece of artifact. Anyone below the great Emperor realm could not see his face. Buzzing, Lu Li took out the Peak of Goddess without hesitation. Blood Fairy flew out. Lu Li threw her to her and said, Shadow Queen, you have sworn in front of so many sects and forces that the saintly sect will not hunt me down for 3 years. I hope you can keep your word and don't let the world laugh at you. Goodbye. We'll meet again someday. Lu Li flew toward the teleportation formation in the city, with Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long who were excited, and Wu Qianwu and Yin Zhu who were nervous. The guard did not stop them. Yin Zhu activated the teleportation formation in person. Lu Li and the other 4 vanished into the teleportation formation under the watch of millions of psychic power in the city. Chapter 2807. Next to the imperial city of the Eastern Cloud Dynasty was a city called Donglin City. There was a luxurious tavern in the city called Donglin Tavern. Today, the tavern was particularly crowded because 2 important people were staying here, one at the Great Emperor Realm and the other at the 5th Tribulation Realm. When Great Emperor Realm Warrior showed his power, it would attract everyone's attention. Since a 5th Tribulation Realm Warrior could be called an important person, he must be famous. This person was indeed very famous recently. His fame had reached the heavens. The tavern keeper almost didn't dare to let him stay here. Yin Zhu and Lu Li. There were 3 other girls, Lu Ling, Xiang Ling Long, and Wu Qianwu, 5 in total. The 5 of them swaggered in. Lu Li didn't even put on his mask. He swaggered around with the 4 of them, as if he was afraid people wouldn't know he was here. The seminar at Huayang was the center of attention. Since the Donglin dynasty was next to the Holy Lady sect, news traveled fast. Everything that had happened on the other side had long been spread out. When Lu Li arrived at the Donglin city, many people came to watch. They wanted to see this famous disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. They wanted to know if this young man who dared to rub the face of a Holy Lady sect had 3 heads and 6 arms. For the next 3 days, Lu Li stayed in the tavern and didn't step out of the door. The seminar at Huayang was spread out quickly. Soon, the entire Endless Ruins would know about it. Lu Li's reputation was rising. This time, he would be famous all over the world. Not even the average great Emperor realm warriors were as famous as he was. But many people were worried. Would this genius die prematurely? Could he even make it back to the Celestial Emperor sect? After all, he had humiliated the Holy Lady sect. Not only did he disrupt the seminar of Huayang, he forced the Holy Lady sect to yield. Shadow Queen even said on behalf of the Holy Lady sect that they wouldn't go after Lu Li for 3 years. Just because the Holy Lady sect didn't go after Lu Li didn't mean that other forces wouldn't. It didn't mean that no one wanted to please the Holy Lady sect. So what if he was a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect? What could the Celestial Emperor sect do as long as he was killed and no one found out? This was also the reason why Lu Li and Yin Zhu checked into the Dong Lin Tavern in such an ostentatious manner. They were here openly. Some powerful warriors would have to think twice before attacking them. The female sage sect certainly wouldn't make a move openly, because that would be breaking their promise to the whole world. The rest of the experts didn't dare to make a move in front of the millions of people in the city. Unless he could instantly kill Yin, Zhu, and slaughter the millions of people in the city, the news wouldn't spread. The Hu clan had a secret branch here, and they were currently setting up a realm gate to teleport to the ancient Moon Empire in the middle of the endless ruins of gods. On the other hand, the ancient Moon Empire had already started to set up the domain gate. By the time they teleported over, the domain gate over there would probably be ready as well. At that time, they would be able to teleport to Celestial City in one go. As long as they returned to Celestial City, everyone would be completely safe. Who would dare to go to Celestial City to kill people? Who had the ability to go to the Celestial City to kill people? Lu Li didn't communicate with Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong for the past couple of days. He and Yin Zhu shared a room, and Lu Ling and the other two stayed in another. Lu Li only told them to wait until they arrived at the Celestial Emperor City. Lu Li knew he was playing with fire. But if he didn't, how could Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong take them away? This was the perfect ending. Now, it all depended on whether they could arrive at the Celestial Emperor City safely. News came from the hidden castle that the domain gate would be ready in one day. The ancient Moon Empire was almost ready as well. It had been peaceful these days. Yin Zhu and the others were relieved. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong, on the other hand, were worried. They knew the higher-ups of the Holy Girls sect very well. They were a bunch of crazy women with twisted personalities. They had been plotting to dominate the endless ruins of gods and kill all the heartless men in the world so that women could have the absolute right to speak in the world. To achieve this goal, generation after generation of powerful warriors had sacrificed the happiness of many female disciples and tortured more female disciples into lunatics. They would either die or become crazy like them. Now, Lu Li had damaged the reputation of the Holy Girl sect, which was a slap to the faces of all the crazy women. How could they not seek revenge? How could they let them go back to the Celestial Emperor sect safely? But what could they do? Lu Li was accompanied by a warrior of the Emperor realm, and he had a complete plan. There was no use worrying. They had to follow Lu Li's arrangement and resign themselves to fate. Wu Qianwu was the most frightened. She had been living in fear these days. She didn't want to go to the Celestial Emperor sect with Lu Li, and she didn't dare to run away. She would be killed by the Holy Girl sect. She lived in fear, not knowing what to do. Soon, a day passed. The door to Lu Li and Yin Zhu's room was opened. Lu Li walked over and knocked on the door. Xiang Linglong opened the door at once. Lu Li's smile was refreshing, which put Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling's minds at ease. Lu Li said with a smile, "It is time for us to go." "Okay." Xiang Linglong smiled sweetly. At this moment, she had calmed down. She didn't care even if she had to go to hell with Lu Li. As long as she could be with Lu Li, she would be satisfied even if she had to die. Wu Qianwu tidied herself up and was about to leave with Lu Li in fear. But Lu Li said with a smile, "Young Lady Wu, you don't have to go with us. For now on, you are free. You can go wherever you want." Wu Qianwu was taken aback. Then, she became even more frightened. She said at once, "Young Master Lu, did I do something wrong? If I have done something wrong, you can punish me. Don't drive me away." "Of course not." Lu Li smiled gently and said, "As a matter of fact, I came to the Huayang Forum for them. You just got involved accidentally. The holy girl Gu has been cured. You are free now. You can go and live the life you want." Lu Li looked at Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long gently while he said this. The two smiled back. Lu Li even held their hands. Xiang Ling Long blushed. Lu Ling, on the other hand, behaved naturally. She didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Lu Li led them out. Wu Qianwu stood in the room alone, not knowing what to do. She grew up in the Holy Girl sect. Lu Li had given her freedom back. The world was a big place, but she really didn't know where to go. "He is here to save us. I'm just a bonus." Wu Qianwu suddenly felt envious of Ling Long and Lu Ling. A man was willing to offend the Holy Girl sect in order to save them. If a man could do this for her, she wouldn't mind dying for him. Lu Li and the other three walked out, attracting many people's attention. Yin Zhu took out a chariot. The four of them got on and rushed towards the east gate. Lu Li is going out of the city. His courage is commendable. Is he really not afraid of death? Does he think nobody dares to kill him because there is a great emperor? I think there are at least 3 to 5 great emperor hiding in the city. As soon as they leave the city, they will be killed. Yes, they are so bold. Nobody dares to do anything in the city. Once they leave, they will die for sure. Even if there's a great emperor with them, they will die. People were discussing. Lu Ling was expressionless, and Xiang Ling Long didn't care. Yin Zhu said with a smile, "Don't worry. We don't have to leave the city. There is a hidden teleportation formation on the chariot. We will teleport to our Hu family's secret castle from the teleportation formation on the chariot. Then we will open the long-distance teleportation gate and go to the ancient Moon Dynasty." Lu Li nodded. Yin Zhu had arranged everything. The chariot was just to distract the enemies. Chapter 28:08. There were runes in the chariot. After they left the city, the chariot trembled, and Lu Li and the others were teleported away quietly. But the chariot kept moving forward and would not stop until it bumped into a rock or a tree. Lu Li and the others felt a white glare, and then they appeared in the castle. There was an illusion outside the castle, and the runes in the castle were activated. Several people inside bowed to greet them as soon as they were teleported out. "Hu He, are you ready?" Yin Zhu asked directly. A powerful warrior of the Lord Realm, Hu He, nodded and said, "Yin Zhu, everything is ready. We can open the portal at any time. Let's go." Yin Zhu didn't want anything to go wrong. He led them to a side chamber on the side at once. There were many runes here. It was a super large altar. "Open it." Yin Zhu waved his hand. Hu He led the others to open the portal. Soon, the divine glyphs lit up and a golden gate appeared in midair. Yin Zhu checked carefully and nodded. "It's okay. Lu Li, let's go." "Let's go." Lu Li waved his hand. They rushed toward the portal. Xiang Ling Long and Lu Ling looked at each other, relieved. This was a long-distance portal. As long as they could teleport through the portal, the powerful warriors of the Holy Maiden sect would not be able to catch up with them. Whoosh! Hu He and several warriors at the peak of the Fifth Tribulation Realm were relieved after Yin Zhu and the other 3 warriors went into the space portal. Lu Li and Yin Zhu were gone. Hu He and the warriors at the peak of the Fifth Tribulation Realm had accomplished their mission. They had made a great contribution to the family. Boom! Right at that moment, there came a muffled sound of explosion. Hu He's expressions changed. He shouted, "No! Someone is attacking the runes outside." A spear appeared in Hu He's hand. He was about to rush out when a vast amount of runes spread out. Then a man appeared in the side chamber quietly. It was a skinny old man in a black robe. His hair was disheveled, and he was barefoot. He looked like a beggar. The old man ignored Hu He and the others. He stared at the open portal and grinned. "You want to run? You are. Lunatic too?" Hu He felt his blood was frozen. He could not move. As for the warriors at the Fifth Tribulation Realm, they couldn't even move their fingers. They looked at the barefoot, black-robed old man in fear. "Hee, you still recognize this old man?" The skinny old man grinned and said coldly, "If that's the case, I'll leave your corpse intact." Madman 2 casually waved his hand and easily grabbed Hu He's head. who he desperately wanted to attack, but he found that the hand had already grabbed his head. Then his head exploded. Swish! Lunatic 2 waved his hand, and a gust of wind blew over. The remaining few peak Fifth Tribulation experts instantly turned into blood mist. Lunatic 2 stared at the domain gate that had yet to disappear. He wasn't in a hurry to chase after them. Instead, he looked at the divine inscriptions below. Hee, do you want to go to the Ancient Moon Empire? Lunatic 2 stared at the rune for a while, and then took out the map. He sneered and said, Luli, don't blame the old lunatic. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. Shio! Lunatic 2 shot out several rays of light at the rune. He didn't destroy the domain gate or the rune. Instead, he modified one of the rune. If he destroyed the rune and the domain gate, Li and the others would be forced out, but they wouldn't necessarily be strangled by the twisting power of space. After all, Yanzu was at the Emperor realm. He might be able to protect Li from death. Therefore, he modified one rune and changed the location of the domain gate. As long as Li didn't go to the Ancient Moon Empire, he wouldn't be able to escape from their pursuit. That was right. This time, he wasn't the only one chasing after Li. There were 3 of them. A Saint Sovereign from the Holy Lady sect sent over a letter with a portrait on it. It was Li's portrait. The 3 of them understood at once. The Saint Sovereign of the Holy Lady sect asked them to kill Li. As for the reward, it was a favor from the Saint Sovereign. Even though the Saint Sovereign didn't say anything, if a Saint Sovereign asked them to do something, they would owe them a favor. Li was a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. If they killed a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect in public, the 3 of them would die, even if they fled to the ends of the earth. But for the sake of this favor, the 3 of them decided to do it. As long as no evidence was left, what could the Celestial Emperor sect do? This was not the Celestial Emperor sect's sphere of influence. Also, according to the information they received, the Celestial Emperor sect didn't send any powerful warriors, only Yanzu. Therefore, as long as they did a clean job, everything would be fine. Lunatic 2 had his eyes on the Dark Castle for a long time. He could have done it just now. If the 3 of them worked together, it would be too easy to kill Yanzu. However, this place was too close to Eastwood City, and many of the major factions had scouts everywhere. Yanzu was an Emperor-level warrior, so once someone found out that they were fighting, their identities would definitely be exposed. Therefore, Lunatic 2 chose to do it after Yanzu, Li, and the others entered the domain gate. He himself was a master of rune. He could modify the rune and teleport Li and the others to other places. Then, they could go after them. Buzzing. After Lunatic 2 modified the rune, the space nearby began to tremble. Following that, 2 silhouettes appeared out of thin air. One was an old man in a Taoist robe, looking like an immortal. The other one looked like a ferocious demon with a ferocious glint in his eyes. Lunatic 2, are you done? The ferocious-looking strong man asked. Lunatic 2 glanced at him and said with a perverted smile, I sent them to the boundless desert. They can't run even if they want to. Heh. Taoist Mu. Emperor Yin, should we go after them now? Or should we wait and see if they have hidden powerful warriors to protect them? Wait my ass. Emperor Yin snorted angrily. Kill everyone nearby. Let's go and catch up with them as soon as possible. Kill them and be done with it. Priest Moose slightly nodded as well. Lunatic 2 conveniently cast a few divine spell symbols to protect this gate. Then the 3 of them transformed into streams of light, darted into the gate, and disappeared. Everyone was teleported away, but the domain gate didn't disappear. Because this was a long-distance teleportation, it would take some time for the domain gate to disappear. Whoosh! Not long after the 3 of them went in, a gust of wind came from the castle. Following that, a black shadow dashed into the domain gate at a horrifying speed. It was so fast that people couldn't tell what it was. There was no longer any movement in the castle. Only Hui's corpse was still dripping with blood. After an hour, the domain gate disappeared and the runes stopped glowing. Peace had been restored. Li and the others didn't know how long they had been teleporting. Fortunately, Their souls were strong enough so they didn't feel dizzy. While they were feeling a bit suffocated, they finally saw a ray of light in front of them. They followed the light and landed in a desert. Eh. Chapter 2809. Normally, there wouldn't be any problems when a spatial gate was opened. Before the gate was opened, Yanzu observed it in person. If so, why did they come to the desert instead of the ancient Moon Dynasty? Something must have gone wrong. There were many rivers and lakes at the ancient Moon Dynasty. There was no desert. Therefore, something must have gone wrong. Either he made a mistake or someone altered the divine pattern after they entered the spatial gate. He could not have made a mistake on such an important matter. He had always been cautious and would have checked it at least 5 times. Then, there was only the second possibility. Someone altered the divine pattern after they entered the spatial gate. To alter the divine pattern, one must either bribe he or kill he and the others. Either way, they were in big trouble. Yanzu suspected that it was the Holy Maiden sect who teleported them here and then killed them. Yanzu told Lu Li his speculation and then said, "Lu Li, you go first. I will stay here for a while. I think this place is probably the endless desert. You can reach the Yin Mo dynasty by flying to the north. The Yin Mo sect is on good terms with the Heaven Emperor sect. You can go to the Yin Mo sect and ask them to send a message back to the Heaven Emperor sect. Or you can ask someone from the Yin Mo sect to open the spatial gate for you and send you back. Let's go. It's very likely that someone will catch up." Lu Li bit his lips, but didn't waste more time. He cupped his fists and said, "I will remember family's kindness." Yanzu nodded, pleased. Lu Li put Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long into the heaven separation bead. Then, he wanted to draw a formation in the void and fly away. However, the formation he drew collapsed. There seemed to be something wrong with the space here. He could not fly. Don't even think about using spatial skills. Yanzu explained. The space here is very unstable. Fly as fast as you can and don't leave any traces. Let's go. Lu Li nodded. He didn't use the dragon transformation because he would be too weak to pass out after a while. He used his source energy to heal his legs. He leaped up and flew toward the north like an arrow. I hope Lu Li can make it back. My sacrifice is meaningful. Yanzu sighed slightly. His lifespan was not very long, and he would be satisfied if he could make some contributions to the Hu family. He was afraid that Lu Li would not be able to escape in the end. If that were to happen, his sacrifice would be in vain. Qin Wentian retrieved some formation stones and started to rapidly set them up in the surroundings. He had lived for a very long time, over 200,000 years of age. Since he couldn't break through to the next realm, he would naturally spend his time researching divine inscriptions. He knew some powerful runes, and he planned to set them up. In this way, he could last longer and give Lu Li a chance to escape. Go! He also released a spirit beast. The smell of the spirit beast was especially strong. He let the spirit beast quickly run towards the southwest. This way, he could leave some traces and hope to mislead the enemy. Buzz. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, a space gate slowly opened in midair, and Yanzu revealed an expression of as expected. He raised his hand and slapped out, directly shattering the domain gate. After that, he instantly activated his divine imprints, causing a dense black fog to rise up in the surroundings, enveloping him within. Waves of killing intent gushed forth from the black fog. Boom! In midair, the space where the domain gate was cracked open. 3 people rushed out from the cracked space. The 3 of them were in a sorry state. Their robes were torn, and one of them was covered in blood. His hair was disheveled, making him look like a ghost. The 3 of them were Lunatic 2, Wooden Taoist, and Emperor Yin. The 3 of them were powerful. They were not seriously injured by the collapse of the domain gate. When they came out, they saw the thick black fog down there. The 3 of them sneered. Lunatic 2 said, "Hu Yin, stop struggling. Hand over Lu Li, and we will let you die in one piece." Ha ha ha. Yanzu's laughter came out from the black fog. He said, "I was wondering who it was. It is Lunatic 2, Wooden Taoist, and Yin Shichi. How bold of you. Aren't you afraid that your plan will be exposed? When the Heaven Emperor sect is enraged, you will not be able to escape death. Lunatic 2 sneered and said, "You said that our plan will be exposed. But what if we don't? If you are all dead, who will know that we did it? We will grind your bones into ashes. Who will know that you died here? Have you forgotten that the Heaven Emperor sect has a Saint Emperor who knows divination?" Yin Zhu continued, "It was always better to buy some time. When Lu Li used his origin energy, he was not slow. The more time he could buy, the more chances Lu Li would have to survive." "You're talking about Emperor of Feather, right?" Lunatic 2 said with a sneer. "But you seem to have forgotten where you are. This is an endless desert. There are naturally powerful formations here. Not even Emperor of Feather can divine any secrets from this land. Why do you think we're doing this? If it were not for the fact that we are afraid of being exposed, do you think you could have escaped from the Eastern Cloud Dynasty to here? Don't waste your breath." Wooden Taoist pouted and said, "Let's do it in case something unexpected happens." With that said, Wooden Taoist was the first to take action. Emperor Yin followed him, and Lunatic 2 took out an iron ruler. The three of them struck at the thick fog down there. Beams of golden light scattered, and waves of multicolored light soared into the sky. The black fog rolled, the earth trembled, and the space cracked. Shockwaves from the attacks of the emperors spread to an area with a radius of more than 3,000 miles. Fortunately, this was a desert. Nobody lived here, and nobody was nearby. Otherwise, people would be frightened. Luli had flown far away, but he had been activating the trace of Great Path. After the three of them made their moves, Luli still sensed something unusual in the sky to the south. The tremors were violent. He had flown for at least tens of millions of miles. It was not hard to imagine how fierce the attacks were if the space tremors could reach him from such a distance. To be able to create such a huge commotion, only a powerful Emperor-ranked expert could do it. Yinzu was doomed. Luli sighed to himself. He owed Yinzu a huge favor. He did not know how to return the favor. To help him, the Hu family lost a powerful warrior of the Emperor realm. This was a great favor. What was more, Luli did not plan to stay in the endless ruins. If he could stay here, he would have the chance to become a high-level leader of the Heaven Emperor sect. By then, he could help the Hu family. If he could find the way back to the third heaven and bring Lu Li and Ling Long back, he might not have the chance to come back to the endless ruins. By then, he would owe the Hu family a favor, which would make him feel guilty for the rest of his life. "Punk, why are you thinking so much at a time like this?" Blood Evil Emperor's voice sounded in Lu Li's mind. Blood Evil Emperor scolded, "Go. If you die, the Hu family's emperor will have died in vain. Fly as fast as you can. I will use my remaining soul energy to erase your traces and chi, or else you will not be able to get away." "Okay." Lu Li looked back and then used some strands of origin energy to fly as fast as he could. Chapter 28:10. Yinzu only persisted for the time it takes for 3 incense sticks to burn. The divine inscriptions he laid out weren't bad, but the problem was that Lunatic 2 and the other 2 also understood divine inscriptions. Each of them were emperor-ranked existences who had lived for tens of thousands of years, and they more or less had some understanding of divine inscriptions. In addition, the time was too short, so Yinzu couldn't arrange powerful divine inscriptions. The attacks of Lunatic 2 and the other 2 were indeed strong, so they easily broke through the divine inscriptions he arranged. Once the divine inscription was broken, the only fate that awaited Yinzu was death. Yinzu didn't intend to live at all. He was an old monster who had lived for so long, an old monster who didn't care about his own life and death. If he fought desperately, the three of them wouldn't dare to push him too far. If that wasn't the case, it probably wouldn't have dragged on for so long. At most, it would take the time for an incense stick to burn to kill Yinzu. The three of them were very careful. In the end, after killing Yinzu, someone was still injured. One of Madman 2's arms was crushed, and Yin Emperor's monarch weapon battle armor was also shattered. It was as if a great calamity had befallen the world. Huge ravines had been blasted out, so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. There was even a huge pit at the very center, which was a ghastly sight. The three of them killed Yin Zhu and took all his space rings and space treasures. After a quick check, Priest Mu said with a dark face, "That kid isn't in there." They escaped. The three of them were having a headache because they didn't know which way Lu Li had escaped to. Also, a long time had passed, and it would take some time to catch up. What if something went wrong along the way? Split up and chase. Emperor, Yin said coldly. Yin Zhu is the only one with Lu Li. If there were other great Emperor Realm warriors, they would have launched a sneak attack. This was the endless desert. Lu Li could not run away. Given their speed, it would be easy for them to find him. I'll go south. The Yin Emperor flew towards the south and left a message. If you find any traces, send a message as soon as possible. This time, I want to see her if she's alive, and if she's dead, I want to see her corpse. Otherwise, the Saintess sect will not acknowledge it. I'll go north. Flames emerged from Lunatic 2's body and burned Yin Zhu's corpse to ashes, leaving no trace behind. He swallowed a medicinal pill and flew towards the north. Priest Mu glanced at the east and the west, then finally flew west. Since the Heaven Emperor sect was to the west, Lu Li might go there. The three of them quickly turned into streaks of rainbow light. Their speed was just too fast as they quickly began to search. Emperor, Yin flew there because there was a strong qi and energy of a beast here. Emperor, Yin suspected that Lu Li and the others had left on Yin Zhu's beast. Along the way, following the aura of the spirit beasts, the Emperor of Yin moved forward quickly without stopping. As long as he kept going, he would definitely catch up with the beast. It was just that he did not know if Lu Li was here or not. As for Lunatic 2 and Priest Mu, they didn't find any trace. They couldn't find any clues and could only fly forward blindly. With their speed, they could surpass Lu Li easily. It all depended on whether Lu Li could find them quickly. An hour later, the Yin Emperor found the spirit beast. He saw a spirit beast running at an extremely fast speed, and there was no human aura around it. He tore the spirit beast into pieces in a rage. He searched the surroundings and knew that he must have been fooled. He angrily flew towards the east. Something is not right. Along the way, Lunatic 2 felt something was off. There was a faintly discernible qi and energy in the air, but it was not human. He could not tell what it was. Emperor Realm warriors had keen senses. They could reach the Emperor Realm because they were recognized by heaven and earth and had a close relationship with heaven and earth. It was also very easy to sense unusual things in the world. There was something wrong with the qi and energy along the way. It was different from other places, but there was no human aura. This made him feel strange, and he could not figure it out. Is it possible that they released some evil thing to mislead me? Lunatic 2 thought. There was no human aura, and the qi and energy was spreading into the distance. It was possible that they were trying to mislead him. There were people in the other two directions. Lunatic 2 had to be patient and fly towards the north. As he flew, a ray of light suddenly lit up in his eyes, so bright that it was scary. I know. This is the soul energy of a warrior at the Emperor Realm. Lunatic 2 finally came to his senses. The qi and energy in the air were the soul energy of a warrior at the Emperor Realm. Emperor Realm warriors had a unique qi and energy, different from regular warriors. However, the soul energy of this Emperor Realm warrior was weak, so Lunatic 2 didn't realize it. There was a soul energy of a warrior at the Emperor Realm here, and it was not source energy. This was intriguing. If it was a powerful warrior at the Emperor Realm, why didn't it appear just now? And why was the soul energy so weak? Lunatic 2 pondered as he flew. After a while, his eyes lit up again. He put on a cold smile and said, I know. It is a remnant soul. It erased the qi and energy of Lu Li and the others to help him cover his tracks. Ha, ha, ha. Lunatic 2 had lived for more than 100,000 years, and he was quite smart. Soon, he figured out the key to the matter. 2 jade talismans appeared in his hands. He crushed them to inform Emperor Yin and the other two. Then the source energy in his body surged, and he sped up. He sped up at least 3 times and chased after the qi and energy. An hour later, Lu Li, who was flying in the front, sensed something was wrong. He looked back and shouted, "Oh no, they are catching up." There was a slight fluctuation of space and energy. Needless to say, there was a warrior at the Emperor realm. A glint of madness appeared in Lu Li's eyes. He thought about it and said to the Blood Evil Emperor, "Lord Evil Emperor, please do me a favor. Take this bead away from me." Even though the Blood Evil Emperor was only a remnant soul, Lu Li believed that he could take the heaven separation bead away. The enemy was after him. As long as he was killed, Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong would be safer now. Ha. The Blood Evil Emperor smiled and said, "Punk, do you think that if you die, the two of them can live? The Holy Lady sect will find a way to take them back. They have no background. Even if they run to the Heaven Emperor's sect, nobody will protect them. In the end, they will die." "Never mind." While flying fast, Lu Li shook his head and said, "I don't care. They will die soon." Alas, the Blood Evil Emperor said, "Take them away. I will help you for a while. The one coming from behind should be a warrior of the Emperor realm. If he is not too powerful, I will help you kill him. But you must promise me one thing. If you can go back to the third heaven, you must find a way to kill Heaven Torch for me." Emperor Heaven Torch? Lu Li narrowed his eyes. That was one of the most powerful Emperor realm warriors at the third heaven. Blood Evil Emperor's enemy was him. Lu Li reacted quickly. He thought about it and said, "Lord Evil Emperor, in your current state, after this fight, I will die. What is the point of keeping the remnant soul?" The Blood Evil Emperor said with a smile, "I wanted to see you grow up and help me kill my enemy. But now I don't think I can do that. Punk, can you give me a straightforward answer?" "Sure." Lu Li had promised the Blood Evil Emperor. How could he say no now that the latter was going to sacrifice his remnant soul to help him? Lu Li raised his hand and swore, "Almighty, if I have the ability, I will kill Emperor Heaven Torch. If I break my promise, I will never be able to reincarnate." Ha. Chapter 28:11. Yin Zhu was dead, and now the Blood Evil King was going to court his own death. Though the Blood Evil King was only a remnant of his soul, he was still conscious. Lu Li treated him as a human being. The Holy Maiden sect counterattack was too strong. An emperor and a powerful remnant of an emperor's soul were about to perish because of him. Lu Li felt upset. What had Lu Li done? How could he let two emperors die for him? At the same time, he felt the responsibility was heavy. He must survive and repay the kindness. Lu Li's source of energy surged out. He sped to the extreme. He flew toward the north without looking back. This was the most dangerous crisis he had ever encountered in his life. He was not sure if he could escape. He had to do his best and leave it to fate. Time moved on. It had only been the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, but Lu Li felt it had been 2 years. Another wave of fluctuation came from behind. Lu Li looked over angrily. He saw a small black dot at the end of the sky. He was in complete despair. The Blood Evil King was a powerful warrior who almost became a saint emperor. Even though he was only a remnant of his soul, he had decided to sacrifice himself. He must have burned up all his soul energy, and his attacks must be ferocious. Even so, he could not kill the emperor, which meant that the emperor was strong. Lu Li paused for a moment. He threw the separation bead into the ground and let Blood Fairy out from his body. He told Blood Fairy that if he died and the separation bead was not found, then she must bring them out. At the same time, he would disconnect his spiritual connection with Blood Fairy before he died. With that done, Lu Li flew into the distance again. He wanted to get as far away from here as possible in case that Emperor would find him. In the time for dozens of breaths, he was locked on by psychic power. Lu Li saw the person behind him. It was a barefooted old man. He had lost one hand, and many parts of his body were covered in blood. Clearly, he was badly injured. Even though the Blood Evil King did not kill him, he must have been hurt. It was Lunatic Tuesday. When he saw Lu Li from the distance, he was relieved. It was too dangerous just now. He almost fell into the trap of the Blood Evil King. His injuries were serious, and his vitality was sapped. If Lu Li could escape, then Lunatic 2 would suffer a great loss. As long as they could find Lu Li, everything else would be fine. Even though Lu Li had won the number one of the conference of Huayang, in the eyes of Lunatic 2, Lu Li was no different from an ant. Lunatic 2 could crush Lu Li at any time. As long as he could kill Lu Li, the mission would be accomplished. The Saint Emperor of the Holy Maiden sect would owe him a favor, and it was not an ordinary one. Lu Li, who was in front of him, stopped. Madman 2 put on a cold smile. Did this guy still want to struggle? Lu Li floated in midair. He didn't take out any weapon. He just stood there calmly. Lunatic 2 used psychic power to check the surroundings while flying toward Lu Li slowly. After making sure that there was nobody nearby, he flew to a space of 2 miles in front of Lu Li. Brat, speak your last words. Madman 2 said coldly. There was no enmity between him and Lu Li, but he would not be soft-hearted. He just wanted to give Lu Li a chance to talk. Lu Li smiled lightly and said, Do you want to take me back to the Holy Goddess sect, or kill me here? Madman 2 frowned. If Lu Li didn't mention it, he wouldn't have thought about it. Now that Lu Li mentioned it, he was suddenly interested. It seemed that living was more valuable than death, that they could be more useful, that the Saint Emperor of the Holy Maiden sect could vent his anger. That being said, living meant more trouble. If they were intercepted by the Heaven Emperor sect on the way, then they would fail on the verge of success. Well, Madman 2 suddenly remembered something. If the Heaven Emperor sect knew that they had killed Lu Li, then they would be doomed sooner or later. If he sealed Lu Li up and threw him into an interspatial artifact, then who would know? Not even the Saint Emperor of the Heaven Emperor sect could do that. After all, an interspatial artifact could be regarded as an independent small universe. On this thought, Madman 2 suddenly reached out his hand. His hand grew larger and grabbed Lu Li in his hand. Lu Li didn't resist and let himself be grabbed. Madman 2 released some source energy and sealed Lu Li. Lu Li's body was filled with Madman 2 source energy. Lu Li couldn't use any strength even if he wanted to. Lu Li didn't even want to fight back. He just wanted to live a bit longer. If he could be brought back to the Holy Maiden sect, then there would be a glimmer of hope. Maybe the Heaven Emperor sect would send someone to save him. Now that he was killed, there would be no hope. What was more, Lu Li was waiting to be captured because of Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. Madman 2 would run away as soon as he captured Lu Li. He wouldn't care about Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. They would be safer. Seeing that Lu Li was calm, Madman 2 was upset. In order to hunt down Lu Li, Madman 2 had suffered such serious injuries. He was burning with anger. A glint of coldness rose in Madman 2's eyes. His hand glowed as streaks of dark air entered Lu Li's body. The dark air spread across Lu Li's body and began to corrode his life force. Madman 2 wanted to torture Lu Li and make him half dead so that he wouldn't run into any trouble on the way. He took out a pagoda and threw Lu Li in. Then he went back the way he came. Lu Li was sealed up and his life force was being corroded. He might not even have the strength to move. He was a useless man. Madman 2 didn't have to worry about Lu Li in the pagoda. Buzzing. As soon as the pagoda was thrown in, Lu Li's pellet began to glow. Then a golden chain appeared. As soon as the chain appeared, all the dark energy in Lu Li's body was purified. At the same time, the source energy that sealed Lu Li disappeared as well. Divine chains of order. Lu Li was overjoyed. The divine chains of order disappeared after the Dharma realm was formed. He couldn't find them no matter how hard he tried. Little did he expect that the divine chains of order would come out again to protect him after he consumed too much of his life force. Let's do it. Lu Li's eyes glowed. At this moment, he felt he could control the divine chains of order. He mobilized his source energy and hacked at the walls of the palace with the divine chains of order. Boom! The pagoda in Lunatic 2's hand suddenly exploded. Then Lu Li came out. Following that, a ray of golden light swept towards Lunatic 2's day. A surge of vast and violent energy pressed down, making Lunatic 2's soul tremble. Madman 2 was wounded and his vitality was sapped. That being said, he was a famous warrior of the Emperor realm. He reacted quickly. With a glare in his hand, he generated a shield with his source energy. Boom! That shield exploded. The golden chain swept across and landed on Madman 2's Emperor weapon and armor. Boom! Madman 2's body was sent flying. His monarch weapon and battle armor cracked, and half of his waist was crushed. Madman 2 spat out blood. His eyes were filled with terror. Looking at the golden chain, he said, "Divine chains of order." Buzzing, Luli released the dragon transformation at once and dragon wrestling and heaven armor. He dashed over like a mad dragon and swung the divine chains of order at Madman Tuesday Punk, courting death. Madman 2 was enraged. He suddenly poked out his finger with his remaining hand. A gust of wind came whistling towards Lu Li's head. Chapter 28:12. Boom! The distance was too short. Lu Li's reaction was much slower than the attack of an Emperor Realm warrior. There was no time for him to dodge. The gust of wind hit Lu Li's head. Lu Li felt his head was being crushed by a mountain. His head cracked, and one of his horns was broken. But at the critical moment, he mobilized some dragon chi to his head and managed to fend off the fatal strike. It was not entirely because of Lu Li's strong defense. It was because Lunatic 2 was so badly wounded that he could not release a strong attack in a moment of desperation. Boom! The divine chain of order swept over and hit Lunatic 2 again. His sovereign weapon and armor were torn apart, and then his body exploded. Half of his body was minced into a mist of blood. Poof! Lunatic 2's body flew out, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He was not particularly strong among the Emperor Realm warriors, only at the middle stage of the Emperor Realm. That being said, he was invincible against those below the Emperor Realm. How could he be smashed by a warrior of the Fifth Tribulation? This warrior of the Fifth Tribulation was comparable to a quasi-emperor. His sovereign weapon and armor had been cracked. He had been through 2 battles in a row, and he was badly injured. That being said, he still could not believe that his body was smashed by a warrior below the Emperor Realm. Nobody in the Endless Ruins would believe it if this was spread out. He was at the Emperor Realm. The lower half of his body was broken. That being said, his realm was in his soul, so he was not hurt. Otherwise, his realm would collapse, and his body would be smashed into pieces. However, his god elixir had shattered. Coupled with his severe injuries, he almost fainted at this moment. Whoosh! The golden chain came again. Lunatic 2 was scared. He could still attack and fight with his life, but he was afraid that he would be killed by Lu Li instead of killing him. Therefore, he mobilized his source energy like crazy. Half of his body flew toward the south in a blur. Unfortunately, his body was incomplete and his injuries were so serious that his speed was only 1/10 of what it used to be. You want to run? Lu Li was not going to let this go. He was wounded as well, but he would not let go of such a good opportunity. If Lunatic 2 got away, Lu Li would be able to recover in a day or two. By then, he would be the one dying. Therefore, he flapped his dragon wings and quickly chased after her. After releasing the god sequence chains 3 times, he felt as if his body had been completely drained. He estimated that he could only release the god sequence chains twice at most. His strength was still too weak, and he could not control this divine item. He channeled his source energy. Because he had released the divine dragon transformation, his speed had increased once again. He estimated that his speed was comparable to that of an average overlord tier. On the other hand, Lunatic 2's speed had been greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, the two of them were actually a bit faster than Lu Li. The two were not far from each other. Seeing that Lu Li was rushing towards him, Lunatic 2 showed a glint of killing intent in his eyes. He began to accumulate source energy in his hands, trying to release a killing move to kill Lu Li directly. Buzz! The sky above his head suddenly fluctuated. Following that, phantoms appeared one after another. They were war gods clad in black battle armor and riding black mutated beasts. All of them wielded black spears. There were 5 of them in total. This phantom image, Lu Li trembled. This shadow gave him a horrifying feeling. It was between a real body and a shadow. The chi and energy coming from it contained the chi and energy of origin energy. This was an attack condensed from origin energy. This was not just origin energy. As a matter of fact, this was a skill all emperors had, Dharma. This was an attack that only emperors could release. It was domineering and horrifying. As a matter of fact, in Lunatic 2's current state, releasing Dharma would aggravate his injuries and consume his vitality. But he had no other choice. If Luli caught up with him, his body and soul would be destroyed. Phew, 5 identical war gods riding on black mutated beasts charged towards Luli. At that moment, Luli felt his soul was going to collapse. The horrifying killing intent was overwhelming, making his soul tremble. At this moment, he felt he was so small, like an ant on the ground, and the 5 war gods were gods in the sky. He could not stop them. An idea came to Lu Li's mind. At this critical moment, he came to his senses. He took out the 7-colored glazed pagoda and dashed in. At the same time, the 5 Dharma images charged over as well. All of them landed on the 7-colored glazed pagoda. Boom! With a deafening noise, heaven and earth trembled. The horrifying shockwave cracked up the ground nearby. Space cracked. The 7-colored glazed pagoda burst open directly. Luli was knocked out in an embarrassing state. The 7-colored glazed pagoda. This was the Emperor's weapon of reincarnation. The Emperor left behind marks of laws in it. It was not strong, but it was not something average Emperor's weapon could compare with. But now, the 7-colored glazed pagoda was shattered. It was a testament to the power of Lunatic 2's move. He has an Emperor's weapon. Oh no! Lunatic 2 was waiting for Lu Li to be torn apart. He didn't expect that Luli would take out an Emperor's weapon to stop the move. Lunatic 2 turned around and flew to the distance without hesitation. Luli would not give him a chance to carry him away. Lunatic 2 flew away at once. The golden chain in his hand glowed. After chasing for dozens of miles, Lunatic 2 hacked at the distance. Buzzing, the sky lit up with a dazzling golden light, and a huge shadow of a giant chain suddenly appeared. It quickly swung down and hit the head of Lunatic 2, who was trying to escape. Lunatic 2 felt he was being suppressed. His speed slowed down. He took out a jade plate and held it above his head. The jade plate grew bigger and blocked the golden chain. Boom! The jade plate exploded. The golden chain was still on Lunatic 2's head. His head cracked, and he was smashed down. Luli checked with psychic power. Lunatic 2 was still alive. This Emperor Realm warrior was strong. He was still alive. Whoosh! Right at that moment, from the south came 2 noises followed by a shout. Lunatic 2, don't panic. We are coming. Another 2 Emperor Realm warriors? Lu Li was extremely weak after he released the Divine Order Chain. He was on the verge of passing out. Seeing the 2 black dots flying over, Lu Li lost all hope. Even if I die, I will drag you down with me. A red glare rose in Lu Li's eyes. He flew over, swung the Divine Order Chain, and hacked at Lunatic 2, who was on the ground. This time, Lu Li felt he had used up all his energy. He blacked out and was about to pass out. That being said, his strong will supported him. He could not pass out. He had to see Lunatic 2 die. Boom! Finally, Lunatic 2 could not stand it any longer. He was smashed by the Divine Order Chain, and his body was smashed into pieces. The mighty power of the Divine Order Chain even collapsed his realm of magic. No, a shrill cry came out. Then a black shadow flew out and transformed into Lunatic 2 in midair. Lunatic 2 looked ferocious. Looking at his body being destroyed and his realm of magic collapsing, he shouted in rage, "Ah, Lu Li, I will tear you into pieces. Ha ha." Chapter 28:13. Priest Mu and Emperor Yin flew over, unable to believe what they had just seen. They saw Lunatic 2 being killed by Lu Li. It would be understandable if Lunatic 2 was killed by an Emperor Realm warrior. But Lu Li was a warrior of the 5th Tribulation. This had subverted their understanding of the power system. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, And if it weren't for the fact that Lunatic 2 was only a remnant of his soul, they wouldn't have believed it. Emperor Realm warriors were invincible against warriors below the Emperor Realm. Not even a warrior with 1 foot in the Emperor Realm could kill a warrior of the Emperor Realm. Lunatic 2 roared in rage in midair. He had a long life ahead of him. He had wanted to make a difference and at least occupy a dynasty. Therefore, he took the risk and tried to gain the support of the Holy Lady sect. Who would have thought that he would be killed? It was understandable if he was killed by an Emperor Realm warrior. But it was Lu Li who killed him. He could not accept it. He controlled the remnant of his soul to fly toward Lu Li, try to devour Lu Li's soul and destroy him in both body and soul. Whoosh! Right at that moment, a sword suddenly flew down from the sky. The sword was soundless and emitted no chi and energy. But it was so fast that Priest Mu and Emperor Yin didn't even have time to react. The sword fell from the sky and pierced into the remnant of Lunatic 2's soul with great accuracy. The remnant of Lunatic 2's soul was punctured like a bubble. He didn't even have the time to scream before he was destroyed. Who is it? Priest Mu and Emperor Yin were taken aback. A powerful warrior was approaching them without them knowing? What was more, they didn't even notice the sword before it was attacked. More importantly, they didn't know where the person was either. A saber appeared in Emperor Yan's hand, and his Emperor weapon armor emerged. Source energy surged in his body. Priest Mu was on high alert as well. His soul was filled with fear. They hadn't found where the mysterious powerful warrior was yet. Who is it? Sneaky bastard, show yourself. After a while, Emperor Yin shouted angrily, "If you don't show yourself, I will kill Lu Li. Are you sure you can do that?" A cold voice was heard, and then a sneer was heard. "You 3 are bold, aren't you? How dare you pursue our heavenly Emperor's sex disciples? Who gave you the courage to do so?" As soon as he finished speaking, a figure walked out of the void. He was dressed in a black robe and had a skinny figure. He wore a bamboo hat on his head, and his face could not be seen clearly. He looked like a ghost. Old Demon Li. The expressions of Priest Mu and Emperor Yin changed dramatically. Our divine Emperor sect? There was only one person in the entire Endless God ruins who possessed such formidable combat strength while wearing a conical bamboo hat. That was the supervisor of the Celestial Emperor's sect, Lord Li. Why had Lord Li appeared here? Since he was here, why didn't he make a move earlier? Then Yin Zhu wouldn't have to die, right? Was Madman 2's death related to Lord Li? Neither of them could figure out the answer to these questions, and neither of them had the time to think about it. Without any hesitation, the two of them flew towards the south, one on the left and one on the right. Lord Li was publicly known as the number 1 person below the Saint Emperor in the Endless Divine Ruins. He was on the same level as the Shadow Empress, but his attack power was much sharper than hers. This was not a boast, but a reputation established by the blood of many Emperor-level experts. Not to mention the two of them, even if there were 10 more people like them, Lord Li would still not be able to kill them. If you do something wrong, you have to take responsibility. Lord Li didn't move. He only said coldly, "When you decided to kill a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, you should have been mentally prepared for death." Swish! The sword stuck in the ground, silently flew up, piercing towards Priest Mu. At the same time, a silhouette emerged behind Lord Li. It was a golden Buddha. The Buddha chased after Emperor Yin with a beam of golden light. He was so fast that he caught up with Emperor Yin in an instant and punched his back. Bang! Boom! 2 muffled sounds rang out as Priest Mu's head exploded. That sword had pierced through his head. Emperor Yin only reacted when the Buddha's fist struck his back. However, his body was blasted apart by the Buddha's fist. Before he died, he only managed to say 6 words: "Evil Earth Buddha, Dharma, instant kill." If Lu Li were in his right mind, he would be shocked beyond belief. 2 great emperors, though not particularly strong, could not even stand one move from Lord Li. They were killed instantly. Lord Li's abilities were appalling. Whoosh! Lord Li grabbed the two's interspatial rings and weapons. Then, he turned to Lu Li. He lifted his bamboo hat, showing a helpless expression. Whoosh! Lordly flew down and grabbed Lu Li. Then he dashed to the distant heaven bead and put it away. Ling Long, Lu Ling, and Blood Fairy were all in the distant heaven bead. Lordly seemed to have been observing nearby and knew everything. Lordly took out an interspatial artifact and threw Lu Li and the bead into it. Then he flew toward the north in a blur and soon vanished into the horizon. By the time Lu Li woke up, 5 days had passed. He opened his eyes in a daze. To his surprise, he was in a bed with 2 people standing next to him. A familiar voice said, "Lu Li, you are finally awake." Lu Li looked around. He saw Ling Long's pretty face and her worried eyes. He was taken aback. He remembered what happened before he passed out. He was confused. "Where am I?" he asked. "Don't worry," Lu Ling said gently. "This is the Yin Desert Sect. We were brought here by a powerful warrior from your sect." "A powerful warrior from your sect." Lu Li suddenly sat up. His mouth twitched in pain because he had touched his wounds. He didn't have time to worry about that. He asked, "Did someone save us?" "Who?" "I don't know." Lu Ling shook her head. "But I heard someone call him Lordly." Lordly, Lu Ling thought of Lord Li's stern face. She felt warm inside, but soon she was confused. How could Lord Li appear in the desert? Did the Heaven Emperor's sect know when he sneaked to the Holy Goddess sect? Was that why they had Lord Li follow him secretly? But why did Yin Zhu die the entire time? Rustle, rustle, rustle from outside came a sound of footsteps. Then a skinny old man walked in. Lu Li stood up, dropped to one knee, and said, "Greetings, Lord Li. Thank you for saving my life." "Humph." Lord Li coldly snorted and said, "Brat, now that you've cultivated origin energy, your wings have hardened? I'll give you 2 days to recuperate. Follow me back to the sect to accept the sect master's punishment. This time, I think, even if you don't die, you'll still lose a layer of skin. You're too bold." With that said, Lord Li left without looking at Lu Li again. Xiang Ling Long looked worried, but Lu Li and Lu Ling were not so worried. Chapter 28:14. Lord Li left. Lu Li was not in a hurry to rest or tend to his wounds. Instead, he took a deep breath and looked at Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long with tenderness. It was almost impossible to take away 2 of the best external disciples of the Holy Lady sect. Unless a powerful emperor or a saint emperor came in person, it could not be done by other means. However, he didn't expect that such a difficult task would be completed by himself. Moreover, he had successfully survived this great calamity. Lu Li felt the heavens were kind to him. At this moment, he felt relaxed. "Lu Li, thank you." Exquisite Elephant's eyes were red and filled with tenderness. This time, she had lost all hope. She didn't expect that a miracle would happen again. Lu Li had saved her and set her free again. Lu Li said with a smile, "Ling Long, let's not talk about this. We don't know each other." "Brother." A voice came. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. He almost burst into tears. How many years had he waited to be called brother? How much had he suffered? They went from the mortal world to the divinity to the second heaven, and then to the third heaven. It was not until they reached the endless ruins that they truly recognized each other. Lu Li was moved by many things, but he felt it was all worth it. "Sister," Lu Li took Lu Ling's hands. The latter smiled back. Her eyes were filled with love, like a mother looking at her child. The atmosphere between the 2 of them was warm, and in Xiang Ling Long's eyes, they were even closer than real siblings. "I will go out and have some rest." Xiang Ling Long left wisely. She wanted to spend time with Lu Li as well, but she understood that they needed time and space. "Brother, you have suffered all these years." Lu Ling patted Lu Li's head out of instinct, and he accepted it. They began to talk in a low voice. Most of the time, Lu Ling asked about what happened to Lu Li over the years, about the Lu family and the Heaven Reverse Universe. Lu Li gave a brief account of what happened over the years. He glossed over many things and did not elaborate on his sufferings. But Lu Ling was a smart girl. How could she not know? Lu Ling didn't say much either, but the pain in her eyes grew stronger. When Lu Li finished, she suddenly said, That demon at the second heaven is not to be underestimated. Luli had already guessed this. He just wasn't sure how powerful the Asmodean Lord was. He asked, "Sis, what realm do you think she is at?" "At least of the Emperor realm," Lu Ling added after some thoughts. "Maybe even a Saint Emperor." "Saint Emperor?" Lu Li was startled. "How is that possible? Is there a living Saint Emperor at the third heaven?" "Of course," Lu Ling said with certainty. "Ancestor Xiang told me personally." Even though there is no clear evidence, he guessed that there are at least 3 Saint Kings in the third heaven. It's just that outsiders do not know of these Saint Emperors' identities. Some people of the world thought that they had died long ago, but in fact, they're still alive. Even if there's a Saint Emperor alive, we can't be sure that the great Demon King is the Saint Emperor. Lu Li still didn't believe it. He shook his head and said, "What's more, if she was a Saint Emperor, why would she go to the second heaven to live in seclusion? And his subordinates are so weak. If I just give them a few pointers, they'll at least be able to break through 5 or 6 tribulations." Lu Li remembered very clearly that Axe Demon and the others were not very strong. How could the subordinates of a Saint Emperor be so weak? "Okay, let's not talk about this." Lu Ling shook her head with a smile and asked, "Lu Li, what should we do next? Do you have a way to go back to the third heaven?" For Lu Ling in the past, there was no difference between the boundless divine ruins and the third heaven because she didn't identify with the dragon rebel race. But now it was different. She was eager to see the Lu family, especially Lu Renhuang and Lu Feishue. To her, those two were her real family, and the Lu family was her family. "I don't know," Lu Li said with a bitter smile. "I am not a senior member of the Celestial Emperor's sect yet. I don't have the right to know many secrets. I can't ask others about this. We have to investigate in secret. Let's go back to the Celestial Emperor's sect first." "Okay." Lu Ling didn't have a good idea. She thought of something else and asked, "Brother, is that the reverse dragon transformation?" "No, it's the dragon transformation," Lu Li explained with a smile. He told Lu Ling how he awakened the dragon transformation. Lu Ling thought about it and said it might have something to do with the animal tooth pendant. The blood of the dragon ancestor helped you awaken this skill. Also, how did you get your source energy? That is a long story. Lu Li didn't want to hide it from Lu Ling. To him, she was the closest person to him, and he had no secrets from her. He told her everything. Lu Ling felt it was like she was listening to a book from heaven. It took her a long time to come back to her senses. She looked at Lu Li with relief and said, "Brother, you have grown up. You have become a big tree. You can help me and the family." Lu Li smiled embarrassedly. Lu Ling patted his shoulder and said, "Okay, that little lover of yours has been wanting to be intimate with you alone. Take it easy. You're not healed yet." Ha. Lu Li could handle himself well outside, but he was still like a child in front of Lu Ling. He smiled shyly, and Lu Ling left. Not long afterward, Xiang Linglong came back. Xiang Linglong had a lot to say to Lu Li, but now that they were alone, she was shy and didn't know what to say. She sat next to Lu Li, who said nothing. He just looked at her quietly. Xiang Linglong was even more shy. She lowered her head, afraid to look at Lu Li. "Linglong." Lu Li reached out his hand, took Xiang Linglong's hand, and said with a smile, "You have been through a lot." Xiang Linglong's eyes reddened. All the emotions she had been suppressing burst out. She threw herself into Lu Li's arms and cried her heart out. Xiang Linglong was not a fragile person, but coming to a strange place, the pressure from the Holy Girl sect and the longing for her family almost made her break down. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ling was with her, she wouldn't have been able to hold on. When faced with all kinds of pressure, a woman's endurance was not as good as a man's. Therefore, it was rare for a woman to become a powerful warrior. Out of 10 great Emperor Realm warriors, at most, there would be one Empress Dowager who was not particularly strong. Warriors like the Holy Girl sect were rare. Of course, it was also because the Holy Girl sect's warriors were all freaks. Lu Ling was a woman as well, and Xiang Linglong was close to her. But she was Lu Li's sister. Therefore, Xiang Linglong didn't want Lu Ling to see her vulnerable side. She had been holding back. Only now did Xiang Linglong let it all out. She had no more reservations in front of the man she loved. She had made up her mind to be with Lu Li regardless of everything. She was not afraid to show her emotions in front of the man she loved. Lu Li, after a while, she looked up at Lu Li and said, "I want to be with you. Do you still want me?" Chapter 28:15. 2 days later, Lu Li, and Lu Li followed Lord Li to a castle. The master of the Yin Desert sect came out in person, a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm. He had to show respect to Lord Li since he was the one who built the portal. "Lord Li, are you sure you don't want to stay for a few more days?" The master of the Yin Desert sect said with regret. Lord Li exchanged some pleasantries. Then the master turned to Lu Li and said, "You must be the famous Lu Li. The Heaven Emperor sect has a successor. This time, we have slapped those crazy women of the Holy Maiden sect in the face." Ha ha ha. Useless disciples. Emperor Confucian, please excuse us. Lord Li looked at Lu Li and the others and said, "What are you waiting for? Come and greet Emperor Confucian." Lu Li and the others bowed at once. Emperor Confucian looked at Lu Li with appreciation and said, "Lu Li, you are not even 1,000 years old, right? You have cultivated source energy and will soon become an Emperor Realm warrior. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Don't compliment him." Lord Li scolded Lu Li. "He is not an Emperor Realm warrior yet, and he is already out of control. When he becomes one, not even us old guys will be able to control him." Ha ha ha. The Confucian Emperor laughed a few times and advised, "Lord Li, who doesn't make mistakes when they're young? How can they be called young people without drive? I remember when you were young, you were more arrogant than Lu Li." Lu Li felt embarrassed, but he didn't say anything. Lord Li waved his hand. They opened the portal. Lord Li said goodbye to Emperor Confucian and led Lu Li and the others into the portal. The teleportation took a long time. When Lu Li and the others came out, they found themselves at the Heaven Emperor city. What was more, they were in the sky above the celestial sovereign city. The appearance of Lord Li alarmed many people. When people realized that it was Lord Li and Lu Li, the entire city was in an uproar. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Many people flew up. Lu Li saw Wang Ningxue and Hu Shiming. Lu Li cupped his fists and said to Lord Li, "Lord, please wait a moment. Let me settle them down. In an hour, go to the Hall of Punishments and ask for punishment." Lord Li said coldly and flew away. Lu Li put on a bitter smile. Lord Li was strict and didn't treat Lu Li well along the way, but Lu Li was grateful to him. Lord Li had pursued him for millions of li and saved his life at a crucial moment. This debt was even greater than the heavens. Not to mention giving him some face, even if he would be beaten or scolded, he would be willing. After Mr. Li left, Hu Shiming and Wang Ningxue flew over. Wang Ningxue's expression was very complicated. There was pride and reproach on her face. Hu Shiming was even more troubled. Lu Li had succeeded, and his name was known around the world. However, the Hu family had lost a warrior of the great emperor realm. Lu Li was troubled as well. First, he flew to Hu Shiming, cupped his fists, and said, "Please tell your family patriarch that I owe the Hu family my life." Hearing Lu Li's words, Hu Shiming looked better. He patted Lu Li's shoulder, but said nothing. Lu Li cupped his fists again and said, "I need to take care of something first. I will go to the Hu family to apologize." Hu Shiming nodded. Lu Li and Wang Ningxue flew to Wang Ningxue. Wang Ningxue sighed and said, "Brother, you have gone too far this time. Master is angry." "I know." Lu Li nodded and introduced Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. He asked, "Sister, please help my sister and Linglong settle down. I need to go back to the Celestial Emperor universe." "Don't worry." Wang Ningxue took Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong's hands. She thought about it and said, "Later, when you go to the Hall of Punishments, you must be polite. Accept the punishment. Do you understand?" "Yes." Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong waved their hands. Worried as they were, they said nothing. After all, Lu Li was a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. The Celestial Emperor sect had saved their lives. They believed that the Celestial Emperor sect would not kill Lu Li. It all depended on the punishment. Many patriarchs of major families flew over. Lu Li didn't want to exchange pleasantries with them. He cupped his fists and flew into the teleportation formation to the Celestial Emperor universe. Many disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect were alarmed when he showed up at the Celestial Emperor Mountain. The northern side of the Celestial Emperor dynasty had been cleared up. The disciples had returned. What happened to Lu Li had spread across the entire Celestial Emperor city. There were many disciples who looked at Lu Li in different ways. Most of them were looking at Lu Li with admiration, respect, and excitement. Of course, there were also some who were envious. Some were gloating and waiting for a good show. Lu Li ignored the disciples and flew toward the Rue castle. He had sensed that the Rue Emperor was in the castle, sitting in the hall, waiting for Lu Li. Lu Li went into the castle. Seeing the Rue Emperor's gloomy face, Lu Li did not flinch. He strode in, dropped to one knee, and shouted, "Master, I am sorry. I have sinned." Silence. The Rue Emperor looked at Lu Li emotionlessly. He said nothing and kept staring at Lu Li. Lu Li dared not to show any dissatisfaction. He kept on his knees. After the time for more than a dozen breaths, the Rue Emperor sighed and said, "I don't have the final say on your sin. The Hall of Punishments will decide. What I want to tell you is, good luck will not always be with one person. If it weren't for the fact that ancestor you used his divination skills and sent Lord Li over, do you think he could have come back? If you were dead, everything you have done will be meaningless. What's the big deal about saving the two of them? In the end, they will die with you. Master, you are right. I know I am wrong." Lu Li dared not to talk back. Still, he explained, "Master, one of them is my sister and the other is my woman. I am willing to die for them." "You're just like that," the Rue Emperor sighed again. Looking at Lu Li reminded him of when he was young. He was as unruly and stubborn as before. Once he made up his mind, nobody could dissuade him. He was reckless and insufferably arrogant. "Let's go to the Hall of Punishments." The Rue Emperor stood up and said, "Our master is furious about what you did. You have broken the rules. You have done something for the Celestial Emperor sect, but the Celestial Emperor sect does not need you to do this. So, I don't know what will happen in the end, and I can't say anything for you. I have broken the rules, and I will accept the punishment." Lu Li bowed to the Rue Emperor again and said, "Master, I am sorry to have troubled you. It is my fault." "Not really. Let's go." The Rue Emperor waved his hand. Lu Li left with him obediently. They walked toward the Hall of Punishments, which was already crowded with people. The master of the Hall of Punishments and many other great emperors were waiting. They must be preparing for a joint trial. The Rue Emperor entered the Hall of Punishments and sat in the corner. Lord Li did not come. Lu Li walked in and bowed to the great emperors. Then he dropped to one knee and said, "I have been rash and have broken the rules. I am here to ask for punishment." The master of the Hall of Punishments showed no emotion. He looked at Lu Li coldly and said, "Lu Li, since you have confessed, then there is no need for a trial. Our master has said that Lu Li has broken the rules and has a bad influence. He will be locked up in the Hell region for 10,000 years. Hiss, hiss." Chapter 28:16. The Heavenly Emperor sect's rules had always been very strict. This was also the reason why the Heavenly Emperor sect was able to prosper. Before the death of the past sect patriarchs, they would pass down their position to the next sect patriarch. The rules of the sect couldn't be messed up. Otherwise, the foundation of the Celestial Emperor sect would be unstable. Decline after prosperity. This was a vicious circle that many clans and sects couldn't jump out of. The Celestial Emperor sect and the Saintess sect were exceptions. The Celestial Emperor sect had strict sect rules, while the female sage sect had never been able to surpass the Celestial Emperor sect. Therefore, groups of crazy old ladies have been fighting for this obsession. When a sect reaches its peak, it will naturally have a feeling of being the world's number one and invincible. Their mentality would also become inflated and complacent, and they would also feel that they were the rulers of this world. Since they were sovereigns, it was impossible for anyone to go against their will. If they did, they would be enraged and would do something wrong. They would never find a reason for anything that happened to them. They would always vent their anger on others. You're number one in the world. Ordinary sects can't afford to offend you. They can only swallow their anger. In the long run, this sect would offend more and more powers. Once an opportunity appeared, this sect would discover that they had become the enemy of the entire world, and countless powers would band together to attack them. The Celestial Emperor sect was very strong, and any sect could sweep through them. However, if all the major forces in the Endless God Ruins joined forces to attack them, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. When that time came, the Celestial Arch sect would be completely annihilated, and their name would be erased from the Endless God Ruins. Therefore, the rules of the sect became very important. Without rules, nothing could be accomplished. There were simply too many experts in the Heavenly Emperor sect. If you went out and killed as you please, I would go out and create some trouble. The Heavenly Emperor sect would have enemies everywhere. Therefore, the rules of the Heavenly Emperor sect had always been very strict. Anyone who made a mistake would be severely punished. There were even instances of Emperor-ranked experts of the Heavenly Emperor sect being executed. Only strict sect rules could restrain the experts and disciples of the Heavenly Emperor sect and prevent them from acting recklessly. This was the only way to protect the Celestial Emperor sect's foundation and ensure that the sect would continue to prosper. Luli's matter was actually not a big deal. If Luli had just sneaked out and did not cause any trouble, the sect would at most punish him lightly. The problem was that Luli had stirred up so much trouble that the entire endless ruins of gods knew about it. Moreover, he had said at the Huayang Discourse of Tao that he had snuck out on his own. The Heavenly Emperor sect's upper echelons had already sent word that they wouldn't be participating in the Huayang Tao discussion. What was the meaning of Lu Li's participation? He was looking down on the higher-ups of the sect. If Lu Li was humiliated at the conference of Tao and Huayang, then not only would he be humiliated, but the entire Heaven Emperor sect would be humiliated. What was more, Lu Li dared to take her away. Use the Empress Peak to force the saintly sect to submit? This could easily trigger a war between the female sage sect and the Heavenly Emperor sect. Lu Li had done a good job. He won first place in the Huayang Forum and made the Heaven Emperor sect proud. He had even suppressed the female saintly sect, forcing them to yield. This made many old fellows feel very comfortable. But rules were rules. No matter what the outcome was, what Lu Li did was wrong. Lu Li had done a good job. If he had not done a good job, and Lu Li had not cultivated source energy, how could Lord Li go? The Celestial Emperor sect would send out a notice to expel Lu Li from the Celestial Emperor sect. They might even send someone from the Hall of Law Enforcement to kill Lu Li. Reality was cruel. Everything had to be based on interests. However, theoretically speaking, Lu Li's merits should be balanced out. What was more, Lu Li had cultivated source energy at the Fifth Tribulation Realm. He was a genius. Shouldn't they cultivate him and rope him in? Why was he given such a heavy punishment? None of the disciples could figure out. But this was undoubtedly a wake-up call for the disciples. Lu Li had earned a lot of reputation for the sect, and yet he was being punished so harshly. If they dared to mess around, wouldn't they be expelled from the sect directly? Lu Li did not know where the Inferno region was. But judging from the gasps outside, it was not a good place. It did not matter where he was going. What mattered was 10,000 years. It was too long. He could not stand it. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were at the Wang family. Were they supposed to cultivate in the Wang family for 10,000 years? What? You don't agree? Master of the Hall of Law Enforcement said coldly, seeing that Lu Li wanted to say something. Lu Li was about to say something when he saw Emperor Rue giving him a stern look. It was as if he was telling Lu Li to accept. Lu Li bowed and said, I do. I accept the punishment from a sect. Good. Off you go. Go to the Inferno region by yourself in 3 days. Master of the Hall of Law waved his hand. Lu Li left at once. Many disciples looked at him with sympathy. In 10,000 years, Lu Li would be an old man when he came out. He was in the prime of his life now. How could he have to endure endless torment and torture. Many people were worried that Luli would lose his mind in there. The Inferno region was one of the most horrifying places owned by the Celestial Emperor's sect. It was no different from hell. Many disciples would be locked up in the Inferno region after they committed serious crimes. There was once an Emperor Realm warrior who died 30,000 years later. Therefore, the disciples of the Celestial Emperor's sect were afraid of the Inferno region from the bottom of their hearts. Luli was one of the most famous disciples. He could cultivate source energy at the fifth tribulation realm. It would be easy for him to reach the Emperor realm. It was possible that he could reach the Saint King realm in the future. Shouldn't someone like him be the treasure of the sect? The master was so cruel. What if Luli died in there? Wouldn't that be a great loss for the sect? Luli went back to the Rue fort on his own. He knew that Emperor Rue would come back soon and give him an explanation. Luli believed that the sect would not be so cruel. The master must have something else in mind. Not long afterward, Emperor Rue came in. He activated the divine glyphs and sat on the main seat. Luli poured tea for Emperor Rue at once and looked at him nervously. "Are you afraid now? Afraid of dying in the Inferno region?" Emperor Rue threw Luli a glance. "Of course I am." Luli smiled embarrassedly and explained, "It's just that it has been a long time, 10,000 years. My sister and my wife are still at the Wong family. Don't worry about them." Emperor Rue waved his hand and said, "I will send a message to the Wong family and tell them to cultivate at the Wong family. Do you know why the master is giving you such a severe punishment?" Luli had some guesses. He asked tentatively, "Kill the chicken to warn the monkeys?" "That is part of the reason." Emperor Rue sighed and said, "Recently, people are getting impatient. Many disciples are not happy with the Holy Lady sect. Last time, some disciples with black badges begged the master to let them fight. The master is trying to use you to suppress them. Of course, more than anything, the master wants to protect you." "Protect me?" Luli touched his nose embarrassedly and said, "To protect me, I don't have to be locked up for 10,000 years, right? 10,000 years is just a declaration." Emperor Rue clearly knew some inside information, or the master told him to appease Luli. Chapter 28:17. Usually, when a disciple broke the rules, the punishment would be carried out right away. Clearly, the Hall of Punishments was taking care of Luli by asking him to go after 3 days. The Hall of Punishments must have taken into consideration the fact that Luli had brought back 2 people. Luli talked with Emperor Rue for a long time that day. Emperor Rue told him how to become an emperor. Even though Luli had origin energy, he still had to go through the heavenly tribulations 2 more times. That being said, with origin energy, it would be much easier. The next day, Luli went to the Celestial City and told Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. They had heard the day before that Luli would be sentenced to 10,000 years. They were worried, but were relieved after Luli explained. The Celestial Emperor's sect had 3 reasons for putting Luli in the hell. First, they wanted to make an example out of him, to rectify the sect culture and to make the disciples behave themselves. Second, to protect Luli. The hell was absolutely safe and outsiders could not go in. Therefore, nobody could hurt Luli in there. This was not only about outsiders, but also about the Celestial Emperor's sect. After all, many people in the Celestial Emperor's sect were not happy with Luli. Putting pressure on Luli was a way of protecting him. Third, they wanted to train Luli. Luli had reached the Emperor realm from the 5th tribulation directly. His foundation was not stable. It would take a long time for him to consolidate his foundation. How could a warrior of the 5th tribulation cultivate origin energy? Nobody could figure this out. Several Saint Emperors of the Heaven Emperor sect had secretly checked on Luli, but none of them found anything strange. However, since Luli could cultivate source energy, it was only a matter of time before he reached the Emperor realm. The higher-ups of the Celestial Emperor sect did not call Luli over for 2 reasons. For one, Luli would not tell them. For another, existence was reason. They wanted to observe and see if Luli could really become an Emperor Realm warrior. Before Luli asked, Emperor Rui had already told Wang Ningxue that the Wang family would treat Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong as their most distinguished guests. The Wang family was well aware that Lu Li was destined to become a high-level leader of the Celestial Emperor's sect. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were living in the Wang family. How could the Wang family miss such a good chance to build a relationship? The family master of the Wang family arranged a manor for them to live in. There were more than a dozen maids, and resources were provided. The treatment was better than that of Wang Ningxue. Lu Li put his mind at ease after spending a day with them. The Celestial Emperor City was absolutely safe. There were powerful warriors of the great Emperor realm here at all times. Many families had powerful warriors as well. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to use force here, let alone major powers. That would be equivalent to declaring war with the Heavenly Emperor's sect. Declaring war against the Heavenly Emperor's sect for the sake of two little girls? Even the Saint's sect was not that stupid. Exquisite Elephant was reluctant and felt wronged. After all, she had just followed Lu Li and they were about to part ways. It was even possible that they would be apart for hundreds or even thousands of years. She would be a widow. She even asked Lu Li to let her go to the hell with him. She was willing to go even if it was horrifying and just like hell. Lu Li forced a smile. The Celestial Emperor sect was not a small sect. They would not allow something like this to happen. If he wasn't a disciple of the Heavenly Emperor's sect, how could he enter the Heavenly Emperor realm? Not to mention Lu Li, even the Rui Emperor didn't have this face. Lu Li comforted Exquisite Elephant for a night, and they slept in each other's arms. Lu Li did not cross the line. At his realm, he was not so hungry for physical things. It was more important to communicate with his mind. On the third day, Lu Li went to the Hu family and paid his respects in front of Yanzhu Cenotaph. At the same time, he told them about the blood oath he made when he and Yanzhu parted ways. The Hu family was satisfied. After all, Yanzhu didn't have much time left in his life. This time, he had played his part for the Hu family. Then, Lu Li entered the Celestial Emperor realm and went to a castle with someone from the Hall of Penalty. There was a teleportation formation in the castle. The person from the Hall of Penalty was a warrior of the Sixth Tribulation. He was advanced in age, and it would be hard for him to improve his realm. He didn't treat Lu Li as a criminal. Instead, he said with a smile, "Brother Lu, be careful when you go in. There are not only ghosts, but also strange monsters. I have a suggestion for you. Find an old temple in the center as soon as possible. You don't have to endure all kinds of attacks in the temple. Just be careful of ghosts. At the same time, there are some mysterious marks left by powerful warriors in the past. You can study them." "Thank you, Brother Chung." Lu Li cupped his fist to express his gratitude. Brother Chung handed over a jade talisman with a smile and said, "Okay, go now. You can't go through the heavenly tribulation in there. When you reach a certain realm and want to go through the heavenly tribulation, you can crush the jade talisman to inform me. The Hall Master said that you can come out when it's time to go through the heavenly tribulation." "Okay." Lu Li nodded and went into the teleportation formation. After a flash of white light, he felt the world in front of him dim down. He stood on the teleportation formation on the top of a mountain. Everything around him was desolation. The Rui Emperor didn't tell Lu Li about the Hell Realm, and neither did Wang Ningxue. Only Brother Chung said a few words. Since the Rui Emperor didn't say anything, Lu Li didn't take it seriously. But as soon as he came in, he felt something was wrong. The heaven and earth spiritual chi here was very dense, but there was also a gloomy aura mixed in with the heaven and earth spiritual chi. This aura made people's hair stand on end. It was like walking on a hill in the middle of the night with a gust of cold wind blowing on his back. What was more, the atmosphere was uncomfortable. Lu Li felt he had gone to the deepest level of hell by staying here. Lu Li didn't move. He wanted to use psychic power to check. However, psychic power was limited here. He could only sense an area with a radius of 1,000 feet. He could only look around, but all he could see was a dark haze. His visibility was less than 30 miles. Everything was spooky. Though the Shin Chi in heaven and earth was dense here, there were no green trees, or red flowers. Even if there were only strange trees that were dark. Luli mobilized some source of energy. He stepped out of the teleportation formation and sat down nearby. He called Blood Fairy out and told her to check the surroundings. Blood Fairy had just left when she came back. She said in fear, "Master, there are remnant souls underground. They're the kind that have no consciousness and are cruel and cruel. I don't have the courage to go in. Those remnant souls will tear me apart." Malicious ghosts? Luli squinted. Blood Fairy was not afraid of other things, but she was afraid of souls. Attacks from spirits could inflict great harm on her. Other attacks were practically ineffective. He had a rough understanding of evil ghosts. They really existed, but they weren't scary. They were just remnant souls of some warriors. After some people died, they were unwilling or resentful. As a result, some remnant souls were left in the mortal world. Since they were remnant souls, they were particularly afraid of things with extreme yang, such as sunlight or fire. Some of the remnant souls could not attack, while some could, but they could only attack the soul. In the mortal world, these remnant souls had almost no attack power and could only scare people. Of course, mortals with weak mental fortitude could easily be scared to death. Clearly, the remnant souls here could still attack, or else Brother Chung would not have warned Luli. However, Emperor Rue did not warn Luli on purpose. Did it mean that Luli's soul was strong enough to stand it? Luli used a trace of Great Path to check. He noticed some dark air in the ground, and there were remnant souls hidden in the dark air. What? Luli was curious to see that those remnant souls were afraid to approach the mountain. There must be something in a mountain that could restrain those remnant souls. Chapter 28:18. Luli obeyed the sex punishment. That didn't mean that he was willing to suffer here. Therefore, he checked the mountain at once. After a moment, he nodded and said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, there's a miraculous formation in the mountain. Take a look. This formation can suppress those ghosts." Really? Blood Fairy was very interested in divine inscription formations. She hurriedly went to inspect it, and after a while, she transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. "Master, this is indeed a very strange divine inscription formation. Although it is simple, it is very profound. Give me a few days, and I will be able to set it up." Okay. Luli was delighted. If he could build a formation like this, he would not have to fear the wandering ghosts outside. He would not have to worry about the wandering ghosts. All he had to do was to find the temple and build a formation like this in there. Then he could cultivate in peace. He sat cross-legged on the ground and cultivated his origin energy. At the same time, he cleared his mind. He did not want to stay here forever. At the very least, Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong would be lonely, especially Xiang Linglong. She would want to be with him day and night. She had just escaped from the clutches of the Holy Lady sect. She must be very fragile. She needed someone to stay with her, and she needed time to recover. He recalled the gains and losses of the trip to the Holy Maiden sect. Granted, he owed the Hu family a big favor, but it was worth it to save Xiang Linglong and Lu Ling perfectly. It all depended on how he could repay Hu family. Also, Lord Li saved his life. Luli did not know how to repay him. The best way to repay him was to stay in the Celestial Emperor's sect forever, become a senior leader there, and contribute to the Celestial Emperor's sect. But what about the third plane? What about the Lu family? What about his friends at the second plane and the third plane? How could he go back to the third plane? Would the Celestial Emperor sect allow him to go back? These were all problems. Luli felt a headache coming on. He did not know what to do. He thought for a while and decided to follow Emperor Rue's advice. He would cultivate hard and reach the Emperor realm. Only when he reached the Emperor realm could he have the right to speak and the confidence to talk to the senior leaders of the Celestial Emperor's sect. Even though he had sources of energy, he was still too weak. He was not strong enough to fight against Emperor Realm warriors. Master has succeeded. 5 days later, Blood Fairy said. Luli took out a chariot and said, "Do something in the chariot and see if it will work." Blood Fairy entered the war chariot. An hour later, A divine rune formation was added to the war chariot. Let me try. Luli boarded the chariot and flew it forward slowly. As soon as he flew out of the hill, the ground in front of him was filled with smoke. Then, many remnant souls came over. Those remnant souls transformed into all sorts of sinister and terrifying appearances. Activate the formation, Luli shouted. The chariot glowed, and then the formation was activated. When the formation was activated, the chariot was no different from before. There was no glow or airflow. Woo-woo. However, the expressions of the surrounding malicious ghosts changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with terror as they fled in all directions. Luli replied with a smile, "Blood Fairy, well done." Luli flew the chariot around. Everywhere the chariot passed by, the malicious ghosts were all driven away. The chariot was useful, like a holy artifact that could exorcise evil. Luli came back after one round. He asked Blood Fairy to set up another chariot while he flew out of the hill by himself. There are not only malicious ghosts here, but also many strange monsters. Brother Chung did not go into details, but he did mention them. If Luli had to come out of the chariot when he was attacked by strange monsters, he would be attacked by malicious ghosts. Therefore, he must test the strength of the malicious ghosts first in case he was caught unprepared. Woo! As soon as he flew out, malicious ghosts came out from below. They were fast and entered Luli's soul in a flash. In Luli's mind, he saw different scenes. He felt that the scenery around him had changed. He appeared in a furnace, and monsters were biting his body from all directions. He could also feel pain, as if he was really being torn into pieces. Luli had a strong willpower. This illusion did not affect him. He focused on his soul and noticed 3 malicious ghosts had entered his soul. The dragon's soul began to glow to protect him. Luli mobilized his soul energy and used the soul-devouring skill. Many beasts formed from soul energy dashed out and attacked the malicious ghosts. After a moment, Luli relaxed. Those malicious ghosts were not strong. They were suppressed by the soul-devouring skill easily. The remnant souls were devoured one by one. As the remnant souls were devoured, the illusion in Luli's mind disappeared. He came back. Still, he was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat on the ground and continued to cultivate. His trip to the Holy Maiden sect had consumed some of his source energy. He planned to cultivate for a few months to replenish his source energy. He was not in a hurry to find the temple. After all, he knew that he could not leave anytime soon. He would have to stay here for at least a couple of years, at least until the heavenly tribulation. He had no elixirs, and he did not know when he could go through the heavenly tribulation. That being said, he had source energy. He believed that as long as his soul was stronger and he mastered the usage of source energy, he could go through the heavenly tribulation. He had saved Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long. The third heaven should be able to handle it. If the third heaven was fine, then the second heaven would be even more so. What was more, Lu Ling suspected that the Asmodean was the Saint Emperor. Therefore, Luli had fewer demons in his mind during this time. The heavenly tribulation would be easier. At the very least, the sixth heaven tribulation would be less stressful. While cultivating source energy, Luli cultivated his soul. At the same time, he began to study the usage of source energy. Emperor Rue taught him some and gave him a book on the usage of source energy. Source energy was a powerful force. Every strand of source energy was powerful. Therefore, it was different from divine energy. The source energy must be divided to achieve the best effect. When source energy was used well, the speed, offensive power, and defensive power could be improved. Luli had only used the most primitive method. He did not know how to use source energy in a delicate way. Shield of source energy, armor of source energy, blade of source energy. Luli experimented over and over again. It had been more than 3 months. He had made progress in the usage of source energy. Now that he was using less origin energy, he could achieve better results than before. It's about time. Let's go to the temple. Luli put away one chariot and took another chariot to a direction. Sitting in the chariot with his legs crossed, he used the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. Something is wrong. Chapter 28:19. Luli knew that there were monsters in the inferno, but he didn't know exactly what kind of monsters they were. At the moment, he only sensed some strong energy, but didn't know what they were. Swish, swish. Luli heard some sounds of friction on the ground, as if he had touched a hornet's nest. From the forest up ahead, some dark shadows were moving over. Luli was on high alert. He released Dragon Wrestling and Heaven Armor. At the same time, he used his origin energy to form an armor outside his body. He looked forward quickly. Snakes! Luli was surprised after a few glances. What was approaching him were small snakes. They were only the size of a thumb, covered in black scales, and had 4 legs. They didn't look any different from regular 4-legged snakes. However, the snake's chi and energy were powerful, which confused Luli. The snakes were so small and didn't seem to have any power to attack. How could they have such powerful chi and energy? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The snakes at the front flew up one by one. They were as fast as Luli. The snakes didn't use any other means of attack. They just flew over. Luli flew out from the chariot. The ghosts around him whooshed over and launched a 2-pronged attack. Luli released the austere talisman, and the talismans swarmed toward the snakes. Boom! The first talisman collided with the snakes and exploded. As far as Luli could tell, the snakes would at least be wounded, if not killed. What happened next on Luli? The small snake was knocked back for thousands of feet, and then it flew back. There was no sign of injury on its body. Not even its scales were damaged. T. Are those snakes wearing armors? Luli was shocked. More snakes were coming from other directions. They were close. Luli swung his fist and punched at the snakes with origin energy. Boom! The small snake was sent flying. This time, it was injured, but only a few of its scales were damaged. The small snake spun a few times on the ground before flying away. Poof! A snake approached from behind and spat out some black liquid. The liquid hit Luli's armor of origin energy. Luli checked with psychic power and was surprised again. Although he was not proficient in using his source energy armor, it was not bad. Its defensive power could probably withstand a powerful Quasi-Emperor's attack. Unexpectedly, the black liquid sprayed over, and a small hole appeared in his origin energy battle armor. Even though the black liquid had been consumed, Luli was still shocked by what he saw. Whoosh, 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 the number of snakes was growing. Luli was losing his footing. On top of that, there were so many ghosts in his soul, and he had to release the soul-devouring skill. For a moment, he felt miserable. Go! He originally wanted to clean up these little snakes, but now he had no choice but to flee. It wasn't that he couldn't kill those little snakes. If he attacked them a few more times, he could still kill them. The problem was that there were too many small snakes. There were tens of thousands of them. How could he have so much origin energy to consume? He retreated as he fought. Many small holes had already appeared in his origin energy armor, and he had no choice but to condense a new armor. His speed had increased by quite a bit, and he was slightly faster than the little snakes. However, it still took him an entire hour to completely get rid of those little snakes. He took out his chariot and stopped nearby. With the protection of the chariot, the ghosts wouldn't dare to come close. That was why he had a chance to catch his breath. He rested for a while. He suffered some minor injuries, which were caused by the venom of the little snakes. After a moment of rest, he controlled the chariot to move forward slowly. This time, he was more careful. Don't enter the woods. There might be some insects and beasts lurking in the woods. It would be safer to walk in the wild mountains. After flying for an hour, he walked through the mountains and took a detour in the woods. He thought he would be safe, but soon, something happened. Boom! A mountain in front of him suddenly burst open. Then a huge beast stood up. It was a humanoid beast, more than 100 feet tall, covered in yellow fur. Its face was like that of a wild boar, and it had fangs, sharp claws on its hands, and a long tail on its back. The beast cried into the sky and leaped up. The sky was already dim. As the beast soared up, the light became even dimmer. The beast's spirit spread out like a blood moon, giving people a sense of oppression. Whoosh! Luli flew out from the chariot. He knew that this fight was inevitable. The beast was not slower than him. He must defeat it, or he would not be able to escape. He took out his saber and hacked at the beast. He integrated his source energy into it. An array of sword light lit up. At the same time, he took out his horn and blew it, releasing soul attacks. Boom! The beast was hit by the ray of sword light, but it only trembled a bit in midair. Some of the yellow fur on its chest was cut off, and there was a wound on its chest. But clearly, it didn't suffer too much damage. Are the beasts here all so strong? How come they don't react to soul attacks? Luli frowned. This was him. If it were any other disciple, wouldn't they die as soon as they came in? How could an ordinary lord withstand such a blow? Luli moved to the sides and kept hacking with his saber. The beast began to attack as well. It let out a shocking roar that shook the mountains and rivers. Luli almost fell from the sky. The beast stomped on the ground, making the entire mountain tremble. The beast flew over. Two fangs flew out from its mouth toward Luli. Sage *T, you could do this? Luli had seen it. He swung his saber and hacked at the two fangs. A strong force pushed him back. The two fangs flew back and entered the giant beast's mouth. Boom, boom, boom. The fangs of the beast kept flying out, and Luli kept releasing his source energy. The man and the beast fought back and forth, enjoying themselves. Since Luli didn't stop attacking, and he was fast, the beast couldn't get close to him. Of course, Luli wouldn't be afraid, even if he could. He could release the dragon transformation and tear the beast apart. But he didn't do that. Instead, he fought hard with the beast. He was trying to figure out how to use his source energy. The beast was just strong enough to be Lu Li's live target. Under Lu Li's continuous attacks, the wounds on the beast were getting worse. There were many wounds on its body. Even though they were all superficial wounds, the beast's abilities would decrease as time went on. In this way, it would be easier for Lu Li to subdue the beast. Boom! An hour later, the beast collapsed in a pool of blood. It wanted to keep attacking, but the bones in its legs were broken by Lu Li. It couldn't get up no matter how hard it tried. Let's go. Lu Li nodded with satisfaction. He went back into the chariot and flew away. After fighting for an hour, Lu Li had consumed some of his source energy. That being said, he had gained a lot. He had made great progress in using his source energy. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, Lu Li stopped in a cave in a small mountain. He planned to rest here for a couple of days to recover his source energy. Chapter 28:20. A month passed by quickly. If it were cultivation, Lu Li would feel it was a snap of his fingers. But in the Hell Realm, he felt every step was strenuous. In a month, he only covered a distance of tens of millions of miles. There were beasts and beasts everywhere. The beasts here were particularly strong in defense. If it were not for the fact that the Rune Blood Fairy he set up to deter the ghosts, Lu Li would not have been able to travel 30,000 miles. Fortunately, he could fight off the beasts here. With the support of the source of energy, his offensive abilities, defensive abilities, and speed were all enhanced. Over the past month, he had been thinking about one thing. How could an average disciple, even a black badge disciple, survive? What Lu Li did not know was that those in prison here were patriarchs at the very least. Patriarchs were at the Emperor's realm. They would not die so easily. Usually, average disciples would not be in prison here. That was equivalent to a death sentence. Master of Heaven's sect must have imprisoned Lu Li here because he had this source of energy. Otherwise, Lu Li would die for sure. Over the past month, Lu Li's abilities had improved. He was more familiar with the use of source energy, and his skills had improved as well. He searched for a month, but did not find the temple. This place seemed to be boundless, and the terrain was almost the same. It was easy to get lost. What worried Lu Li the most was not the ghosts or beasts, but the atmosphere here. The Hell Realm seemed to be filled with a very strange aura. This aura could silently affect the souls of the people inside. Lu Li could feel it clearly. His temper was getting worse, and his mood was getting gloomier. In the beginning, he didn't even kill the ferocious beasts and only defeated them. However, in the past 2 days, he had become bloodthirsty and irritable. He had killed all the ferocious beasts that he encountered during these 2 days. One of the ferocious beast's corpse had even been torn apart by him. Luli had a strong will. He would not lose his temper for no reason. The only explanation was that the environment here could affect people's souls quietly, making them violent, bloodthirsty, and crazy. Luli once heard that a great emperor died in the Hell Realm. He did not understand it, but now he had a vague idea. The great emperor was not killed by beasts or ghosts. He killed himself. In other words, the great emperor must have lost his mind. Luli was panicking. How long had he been here? If he was locked up for a few hundred years, would he be able to survive? Although the Rue emperor said that the sect was protecting him, what if the sect's powerhouses thought too highly of him? If they treated him as a quasi-emperor and felt that he was fine inside, then he would have died unjustly. Let's continue. After resting for half a day, Luli continued to fly the chariot. After 2 days, they encountered 2 more monsters. Then, the terrain changed, and a swamp appeared in front of them. The terrain has changed. Could it be that the ancient temple is in front? But there must be monsters in this swamp. Luli thought about it, and decided to take the chariot to go around the swamp. After flying for half a day, he realized that the swamp seemed to be endless. He had no idea how long it would take to go around. Let's go through. Luli made up his mind. Lately, he had become more proficient in using his origin energy, and his confidence had increased. He simply rode the chariot and slowly flew into the swamp. At the same time, he activated the marks of the Great Tao to sense the situation around him. Wow, after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, a huge tail suddenly swept over from the swamp. Luli didn't even sense that there was a monster lurking nearby. He dashed out at once and put away the chariot. He waved his saber and used his origin energy to hack at the tail. With a muffled sound and a ray of light, Luli was knocked back by a strong force. Only now did Luli realize what kind of monster was attacking him. It was a monster with a human head and a crocodile's body. It had human arms, and its eyes were filled with coldness and cruelty. Luli and the crocodile looked at each other. Luli's eyes turned red, and he was filled with killing intent. At this moment, an idea came to Luli's mind, which was to tear this monster into pieces. Roar! Luli yelled and released the dragon transformation. Then, he dashed toward the crocodile in a blur. The crocodile's tail swept over, but Luli was not afraid at all. He waved his claws at the crocodile's tail. Bang! The crocodile's hard tail was torn apart by Luli. Then, Luli's claws moved on and tore the crocodile into pieces. Under the effect of the dragon transformation, Luli's claws felt invincible. With the use of origin energy, his claws were even sharper. Just now, when Luli attacked with origin energy, the crocodile only lost a few scales. It was not hard to imagine how powerful Luli's claws were. After the crocodile human was killed, Luli felt less violent and bloodthirsty. He deactivated the dragon transformation at once, dashed into the chariot, put on his robe, and breathed heavily. No, I will go crazy sooner or later. Luli's eyes were filled with fear. Just now, he released the dragon transformation unconsciously. Usually, he would not do it unless he had no other choice. After the dragon transformation was released, there would be a sense of weakness. There were dangers everywhere. Why would he use his trump card unless it was extremely dangerous? I'm not leaving. I'll stay here and cultivate for 2 months to calm myself down completely. Luli thought about it and decided to see if cultivation could change his state. He could not go on like this. Sooner or later, he would be in trouble. He parked the chariot on the swamp and sat down with his legs crossed. He had just killed a beast here. There shouldn't be any more beasts coming for a while. Big trouble. 5 days later, Luli opened his eyes. He realized he couldn't even cultivate anymore. He was restless and irritable. He would be possessed by the devil if he went on like this. Therefore, he stopped cultivating. What should I do? Luli was confused. He didn't know where to go or how to get rid of the evil spirit in his mind. He knew very well that he would be doomed if he went on like this. He must figure out a way. Either he should find a safe place, or he should find a way to deal with the evil spirit. He missed the blood evil emperor very much. If the remnant soul of the blood evil emperor was still here, he would be able to guide Lu Li to deal with the evil spirit. But now, Lu Li could only rely on himself. Let's get out of the swamp first. Lu Li made up his mind. The swamp was too dangerous. Ferocious beasts could show up at any time. He had to get out of the swamp before he could figure out a way. He refined a few soul-nourishing divine medicines and swallowed a few pills that could calm one's mind. Let's go. He sped up the chariot so that he could get out of the swamp faster. However, the result was that more and more crocodile people were attracted. Lu Li didn't waste any more time. Every time, he would release the divine dragon transformation at once to tear the crocodile people apart. Then, he would release the divine dragon transformation and move on. Even though the divine dragon transformation only lasted for a moment each time, Lu Li's body was getting weaker. This would be dangerous. If he could not stand it and passed out, he would die a tragic death. The thing was, Lu Li didn't dare to stay here for too long. He had to speed up, hoping that he could get out of the swamp before he passed out. 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. In front of him was still the endless swamp. At the moment, Lu Li's body and mind were in a state of extreme emptiness. He believed that he would pass out if he released the divine dragon transformation 2 or 3 more times. Let's see if I can get into the separated heaven bead. Lu Li took out the separated heaven bead after some thoughts. If he could get into the bead and rest for a couple of days, it would be much easier for him to move forward. I can't. Lu Li was disappointed. The separated heaven bead glowed, but it didn't send him in. At that moment, Lu Li felt he was besieged on all sides. Chapter 28-21. For days. It took Lu Li 4 days to cross the swamp. He did not know how he managed to survive the 4 days. He was covered in wounds, which were nothing to him. What mattered was his state of mind. He felt more and more violent and bloodthirsty. He tore apart all the crocodile people along the way. He felt that after encountering the beasts, his body and soul were no longer under his control. The only thought in his mind was to tear apart all the living beings in front of him. He was extremely weak. As soon as he made it out of the swamp, he took out the chariot and collapsed in it. His soul was filled with drowsiness, and he really wanted to sleep for a few days and nights. But he knew very well that he could not sleep now. Blood Fairy was afraid to go out, which meant that she could not set up the divine rune. If a beast came, Lu Li would lose his life. He had to lean against a corner of the chariot to rest. After a while, he began to consume the elixir. He had many elixirs with him. Last time, he received many from the Heaven Emperor's sect and many gifts. Lu Li rested in the chariot for over a day before he felt better. But he was still irritated. He could not focus on cultivation. He did not dare to cultivate either, fearing that he would go mad and become a real lunatic. Lu Li rested for another 2 days. His wounds were healed and he was not weak anymore. But he was irritated, anxious, and annoyed. There was no solution. Lu Li had to find the temple as soon as possible. Since Brother Chung had warned him that the temple was a good place to cultivate, there must be a way. Lu Li pressed on. Along the way, he encountered more beasts and monsters. Every time he encountered a beast or monster, he would lose control of his desire to kill. Every time, he would not only kill the beast, but he would also tear the beast into pieces. Only after he tore the beast into pieces could he calm down. The hostility and irritation in him would be alleviated. Lu Li knew very well that when he tore apart the beasts and monsters, it might seem that he was venting his anger. But as a matter of fact, the more he killed, the more his anger would grow. One day, when it reached a certain point, he would lose his mind completely. He would become a killing machine, a lunatic. Lu Li had experienced this before, when he was in the divinity and was invaded by demons. Back then, he would lose control of himself as well. He would have a strong desire to kill. At certain times, the baleful aura and evil aura in his body would control his soul, spirit, and body, causing him to lose all rationality. Lu Li did not know how to deal with this. Unlike in the divinity, he had to move forward blindly. He could either find the temple and find a solution or become a lunatic and end up as food for the beasts. After 18 days, Lu Li's mental state had become very poor. He didn't have time to sleep or relax. Unable to cultivate, he could only sit in the chariot and heal himself apart from killing vicious beasts and monsters. He was like a lone wolf lying in a ravine, quietly licking his wounds. His spirit was almost on the verge of collapse. He really wanted to fall into a deep sleep and even wanted to give up on himself. He didn't want to suppress the killing intent in his heart and let it all out. That being said, his will was strong enough to hold on. Every time he could not hold on any longer, he would think of Lu Ling, Xiang Ling Long, Lu Jingyang, Lu Ren Wang, Lu Feishue, Jiang Qiling by Qiu Xue, and by Xia Shuang. He told himself that he could not give up and had to persevere. He had to hold on until the very last moment. Bang! The mountain in front of them exploded, and a huge monster charged into the sky. The monster's body was covered with snow-like scales, and its back was covered with spikes. It had 2 heads, and these 2 heads looked different. The chi and energy of a ferocious beast enveloped Lu Li. His blood was boiling, and his killing intent was surging out. His body uncontrollably released the divine dragon transformation. With a flap of his wings, his body shot forward like a sharp sword. Phew! The beast opened its mouth and spat out some scorching black flames. The temperature of the black flames was so high that the air around was curling up. Lu Li also felt a surge of heat wave sweeping across, and the black flames swallowed him up. The flames were not bad. However, Lu Li's defense was so strong after he released the divine dragon transformation. The flames could not burn him to death. They only brought him some pain. Phew. The other head of the beast opened its mouth and breathed out some cold air. When Lu Li dashed out from the range of the black flames, he was enveloped by the cold air. Lu Li stopped in midair and was frozen. Fire and ice mixed together. A beast with 2 heads. One could breathe out fire, and the other could breathe out cold air. This was the first time Lu Li had seen something so strange. How could a beast contain both hot and cold energy? Lu Li could not figure it out. He didn't have the time to think. He mobilized his source energy to break out from the ice. He dashed to the side of the beast and crushed its head with his claws. Lu Li used his claws to crush the body of the beast, but he didn't crush the 2 cores. One was red and the other was blue. There were energy of fire and ice properties contained in the cores. There is no conflict between the 2 types of energy in my body, Lu Li said to himself. He checked and threw the 2 cores into his interspatial ring. He deactivated the divine dragon transformation and moved on. Deactivating the divine dragon transformation right away wouldn't make him too weak. But if he were to stay in the divine dragon transformation for a long time, he would definitely pass out when the period of weakness was over. Along the way, Lu Li killed more and more enemies. The killing intent and violence around him grew stronger. Sometimes he was clear-minded and sometimes he was confused. He felt like he was in a muddle. His hair was disheveled and he only had a random robe on. The robe was ragged. He looked like a beggar. One of his chariots had exploded and the other one was attacked as well. If it were attacked again, it would explode as well. Boom! Lu Li passed by a patch of woods. A huge tail swept out from the woods and smashed the chariot. Lu Li took a look and dashed into the woods with the divine dragon transformation. In the time for a few breaths, the beast in the woods was torn apart by Lu Li. However, Lu Li didn't deactivate the divine dragon transformation. Instead, he roared and dashed on as if he was looking for other living beings and wanted to tear them all apart. After such a long time, Lu Li finally couldn't stand it anymore. His consciousness was suppressed. He had turned into a killing maniac. He had lost his mind. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Li's rapid flight had alarmed the monsters and beasts that were hiding nearby. Many beasts rushed out from all directions towards Lu Li. Charge, charge, charge. Chapter 28-22. One day. 2 days? Lu Li could not remember. He had been in a berserk state for days. Every now and then, he would sober up for a moment, But soon his mind would be filled with violence and killing intent again. At this moment, he was lying on top of a huge mountain, surrounded by the broken limbs of vicious beasts. He was breathing heavily. His body was heaving up and down. He was still using the dragon transformation. Maybe it was because of the madness or his source of energy. He had been using the dragon transformation for such a long time, and he did not pass out. That being said, he could feel that he was not far away from passing out. His soul was filled with exhaustion. Many thoughts came to his mind. Those thoughts were for him to rest and have a good sleep. He wanted nothing more than to fall asleep and never wake up again. But there was another thought on his mind. He could not fall asleep. Once he did, he might die. He could not die. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were waiting for him. Lu Renwang, Lu Zhengyang, Jiang Qiling, Bai Qiuxue, and many others were waiting for him. His willpower had always been very strong. He had endured inhuman pain for many years, causing his willpower to become extremely terrifying. If it was an ordinary person, they would have either had a mental breakdown or fainted. Keep going. I must find the ancient temple. I must find the ancient temple. A thought appeared in his mind, and this obsession urged him on. His body once again shot into the sky, and with a long roar, he turned into a bolt of lightning and flew north. Roar, roar. Inevitably, his speed alarmed the beasts and monsters nearby. Many ghosts rushed toward him and entered his body. Fortunately, his soul was strong, and he had the dragon's soul. He could use the soul-devouring skill out of instinct to devour those ghosts. Die, die. He bellowed and dashed toward the beasts and monsters around him. With the support of the dragon transformation and the source of energy, his attacks were fierce. He tore apart the beasts one by one and kept moving forward. Every time he killed a beast, the killing intent in him would grow stronger. Using the dragon transformation for a long time had weakened him to the extreme. He knew clearly that he could not stand it any longer. In the time for 1 or 2 incense sticks to burn, he would pass out. According to common sense, he should have fainted a few hours ago, but his strong willpower kept him going. But now, he was almost at his limit. Any fortress would be breached from the inside. Ferocious beasts and monsters couldn't kill him, but his weakness would kill him. Plop! After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, his body fell to the ground. However, he did not lose consciousness. After resting for a moment, he roared and rushed up again. After killing a few more ferocious beasts and monsters, he continued flying. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, he crashed down again, smashing the small mountain below into pieces. It's over. Luli knew he was doomed when he saw that the dragon transformation was deactivated automatically. He would pass out from the horrifying feeling of weakness if he forced the deactivation. Once he fainted, he would be torn apart by ferocious beasts and monsters nearby. In addition, he had fainted and naturally could not activate the 1,000 demon soul devouring technique. The malicious ghosts would devour his soul. No, I can't faint. I have to continue flying. Luli bellowed. Once again, he flew up. However, he only flew for 3,000 miles before he rolled his eyes and trembled. He fell down, stirring up a cloud of dust. At the same time, 4 ferocious beasts nearby were alarmed. They roared and charged at him. Luli forced a smile. He struggled, but he couldn't even stand up. The dragon transformation was completely deactivated. His mind was in a mess. He felt his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. He couldn't keep them open no matter how hard he tried. Roar, roar, phew, phew, the 4 ferocious beasts were charging at him. Luli, however, had to lie on his back, motionless. Before he passed out, he turned his head with difficulty and looked around. In a daze, he seemed to see a mountain to the west. A building was faintly discernible in the mountain. It looked like an ancient temple. Am I hallucinating? Luli shook his head. He took another look and saw that there was indeed a temple on the mountain. At that moment, he opened his eyes. Boom! He swung his fist and used his origin energy to send a charging beast flying with a single punch. Then his body actually shot up again, madly rushing towards the west. However, he felt he was hollowed out. He flew for dozens of miles and then fell down. Whoosh! A gust of wind came from behind him. He smelled the foul smell of a beast. It was a snake opening its mouth, trying to swallow him. Luli bit his lips hard to clear his mind. Then he slapped the snake back and knocked it back for thousands of miles. Crawl! I will die in the ancient temple, even if I have to die. Luli roared to himself. He pushed against the ground and leaped up again. In this moment of life and death, his body's potential was stimulated limitlessly. However, his body was still in midair. Just as he rushed out a few hundred miles, he was swept by a huge tail and smashed down. Boom! His back was covered in blood. He was so weak that he could not even use dragon wrestling and heaven armor. He had to rely on his physical strength to fend off the beasts. The intense pain stimulated his ferocious nature. His body bounced up and rushed to the side of a monster. He wrapped his hands around the monster's neck and then opened his mouth to bite it. The beast's tail swept at Luli's back again and again. The beast's tail was full of spikes. Every time, Luli's back would be punctured with a bloody hole. But Luli never let go. He kept biting and gnawing off the beast's neck bit by bit. In the end, the beast's neck was bitten off by Luli. Luli's back was badly mutilated as well. Many bones were cracked. Boom! He fell down with the beast. His mouth was filled with the beast's flesh and blood. He had swallowed a lot, and now he could not help but throw up. Chirp! In the sky, a golden rock screamed. It whooshed down and reached for Luli with its claws. Luli wanted to use his origin energy to smash the golden rock away, but he changed his mind. But at this moment, he changed his mind and allowed the rock to grab him with its claws. Then it brought him into the air. Hiss, hiss, a faint golden airflow appeared on the claws of the rock. The claws were powerful. One of the claws grabbed Luli's body and the other grabbed his leg. At this moment, the two claws exerted force, actually wanting to tear apart his body, wanting to tear off his legs while he was still alive. Luli tried to fight back the pain. His eyes became blurry again. He saw the rock was flying towards the mountain where the ancient temple was. He just let the rock tear his body apart. Bang! Finally, one of his legs could not stand it anymore. He was torn apart by the rock. At this moment, the rock was above the ancient temple. Luli waved his fist and smashed at the rock's claws with his origin energy. The rock was in pain. It loosened its claws. Luli fell down and landed on a plaza about 30 miles in front of the ancient temple. Luli could not keep his eyes open, but he waved his arms desperately and crawled towards the ancient temple. When the rock flew down again, Luli had reached the temple. The rock looked at the ancient temple with fear in its eyes. It turned around and flew back to the sky. Chapter 28-23. Luli didn't know how much time had passed. 3 to 5 days, or 3 to 5 months. Luli's mind gradually became clearer, but that didn't mean he had woken up. He felt like his soul was trapped in a dark world. He couldn't see or hear anything. He only felt 3 things. The first was cold, the second was quiet, and the third was darkness. He wanted to get out of this dark world, a world that terrified him, but he didn't know how. His soul seemed to be flying in the endless void, never coming back down. He knew he was in a horrifying state. If he didn't think of a way, his soul might be trapped here forever and he might never wake up. He forced himself to calm down. Being impatient would only make him crazy. Only by staying calm could he find a way out. Gradually, his soul relaxed and quieted down. Then, he fell asleep again. His soul was in complete silence. When he woke up again, he realized it was the same. His soul was still trapped in a dark and cold space. This time, he knew something was wrong. It was not that he was too weak to wake up. Something was wrong. He began to wonder why this was happening. Is it because I have consumed too much of my energy? My body is extremely weak? Is that why my soul is sealed up? An idea came to Luli's mind. He thought about it for a long time and decided not to let his mind wander. He decided to cultivate soul cultivation to make his soul stronger. He wanted to see if he could wake up completely after his soul was strengthened. He used soul cultivation in silence. He didn't think about anything else and just focused on cultivating his soul. In this state, he found that his soul was being strengthened at a fast speed by cultivating soul cultivation. It was more than 10,000 times faster than before. He didn't know if it was really that fast or if it was just an illusion. Thus, he decided not to think about anything else and focused on cultivating his soul. In this state, Luli had no idea how much time had passed. All he knew was to cultivate soul cultivation until his mind was clear and he could control his body again. Luli was still lying at the gate of the ancient temple. At the gate of the ancient temple, there were no beasts attacking him. Ghosts didn't seem to dare to come over either. Luli was safe. The wounds on his body had long since healed, and the blood underneath had dried up. His torn leg was still slowly growing back. It had been more than a month since he had fainted. His aura was very weak, and he lay on the ground like a living dead, unable to move at all. Time flowed like a river. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. Of course, Luli had recovered. Because he had used the dragon transformation, he was naked. It was quite indecent for him to be lying at the door of the ancient temple. 5 years had passed, and his body had not moved at all. There was even a faint layer of dust on his body. Based on the growth rate, it seemed he had been sleeping for 7 or 8 years. How was that possible? Luli shook his head. No matter how badly he was injured, he could not have slept for 7 or 8 years. He checked his region of Dharma again. It seemed to have grown a lot. He mobilized his source energy. It was real. He didn't even cultivate. How could his source energy have grown by thousands of times? He could not figure it out. He used psychic power to check other parts of his body. When he reached his soul, he trembled. He realized his soul had mutated. His soul had become a golden bead. The bead had nodules on the outside. It was like a golden egg floating in his mind. More importantly, his soul was strong, at least tens of thousands of times stronger than before. What did tens of thousands of times mean? Luli's soul was not particularly strong, but it was not weak either. It could be compared to a warrior at the middle stage of the sixth tribulation realm. But now, his soul could be comparable to a warrior at the initial stage of the emperor realm. Could it be that what I sensed in my days was real? Am I really cultivating my soul in the dark tens of thousands of times faster than usual? Have I really been sleeping for 7 or 8 years? Luli could not figure it out. He looked around the ancient temple. Somehow, he had a feeling maybe the strange things that happened to him had something to do with this ancient temple. It must be. Luli thought about it and agreed with his speculation. In the past, his soul was filled with evil spirits and evil spirits. Now they were gone. He was calmer than ever. There must be something strange about this temple. Chapter 28-24. Luli did not enter the temple rashly. Instead, he began to observe. The temple was neither large nor small. There should be 3 or 4 halls. He was at the front door and had not entered the main hall yet. The temple must have existed for a long time. The walls were marked with the passage of time and were covered in moss. The atmosphere of the temple was ancient. Luli walked in after a while. Inside was a small front hall. There was nothing but doors on both sides. It must be the main hall. He entered the main hall from the door on the left. The hall was spacious. In front of him was a stone statue with 4 stone pillars. On the walls on both sides were relief carvings with some strange patterns. Luli looked at the stone statue in front of him. The stone statue was so lifelike that it looked like a real person. At first glance, it was extraordinary. This stone statue released a very strange aura, as if this stone statue was a true god, guiding people to worship him. It was an old man. Luli didn't know who it was after a few glances. He walked to the stone statue and bowed to it 3 times after some thoughts. For this stone statue to be enshrined here, it must have been an expert, and an expert who was respected by everyone. Luli looked at the stone statue and resisted the urge to take out his weapon to cut it open. He had a feeling that this stone statue was not an ordinary one. Maybe there were some treasures inside. He remembered that the stone statue had been here for years and nobody had touched it. Naturally, Luli would not do so. After all, this was the portrait of an ancestor. Luli looked at the stone pillars and relief carvings. The stone pillars were covered with strange patterns as well. The patterns on the relief carvings were enigmatic, as if there were marks of Tao everywhere. Blood Fairy, go and have a look. Luli let Blood Fairy out. There must be some powerful runes in the ancient temple. He wanted her to study them. Luli looked at the relief carvings on the walls. After a while, he sat on the ground and began to study. He could sense some marks of Tao on the relief carvings, some mysterious ones. Master, there are very powerful divine runes here. Half an hour later, Blood Fairy transmitted her voice to him. The divine inscriptions here can prevent ghosts from approaching, and they can also deter wild beasts. They can also calm your mind and soul. You can cultivate here without worry. There won't be any danger. Blood Fairy's words answered Luli's question. No wonder he was so violent before, but not now. It was because of the ancient temple. This question was solved. Why did his soul grow so quickly? This was something that Luli didn't understand. But now, everything was perfect. At the very least, he didn't have to worry about anything and could quietly cultivate here. Luli sat for a while and closed his eyes to cultivate. While he was cultivating, he observed the state of his body. His Dharma region had grown, and his soul was tens of thousands of times stronger. It was highly possible that he had been sleeping for 7 or 8 years. I wonder if I can enter that state again. Luli thought back to his previous state. If he could enter it at any time, that would be amazing. In that state, cultivating his soul for a year was equivalent to cultivating for 10,000 years. This speed was too fast. He tried several times, but realized that he could not enter that state. He had to give up. It seemed that entering that state was something that could not be sought. Maybe it was because his body was extremely weak and his soul was sealed that he could enter that state by chance. Entering that state was risky. If he was unlucky, he might be sealed in this state for the rest of his life, never to wake up. 2 days later, Luli began to cultivate according to what Emperor Rue taught him. He had Dharma region and source of energy, but he was not at the Emperor realm yet. To reach the Emperor realm, 3 conditions must be met. The first was to have Dharma region and source of energy, which were the basics. This was also the source of energy at the Emperor realm. Without Dharma region and source of energy, reaching the Emperor realm would be pointless. His abilities would be no different from those at the 6th tribulation. The second was the body of an emperor. Emperor realm warriors had the might of an emperor. Only the powerful ones could hide their energy and become an average person. Usually, Emperor realm warriors could tell this because the might of an emperor was special. The might of an emperor came from source of energy and the body of an emperor. Without the body of an emperor, one could not be a real emperor. The third was Dharma. Dharma was a unique move of the Emperor realm and a very powerful one. That being said, Dharma could not be cultivated in a short time. Even if it could be cultivated, it would take a long time for the power to grow. Dharma could be divided into strong and weak ones. For example, Lord Liesel Buddha Dharma was a famous Dharma in the endless ruins of gods. Back then, the Yin Emperor had been killed by a single punch from this Dharma idol. The strength of the Emperor realm was not only determined in terms of fundamental principles and realms, but more importantly, the strength of the Dharma. Dharma was divided into 3 levels according to power: heaven, earth, and human. Lord Li's Dharma was heaven level, one of the most powerful Dharma in the endless ruins of gods. If Luli wanted to become a real Emperor realm warrior, he must cultivate the body of an emperor and form the embryonic form of the Dharma. Only then could he be considered a real Emperor realm warrior. As for the soul, there was no requirement for the Emperor realm. But those who could reach the Emperor realm would not have weak souls. Given the current strength of Li's soul, not even the average Emperor realm warrior could compete with him. Therefore, Li had to form the body of an emperor and the embryonic form of the Dharma in order to become a real Emperor realm warrior. Li's body was strong, but it did not mean that he could form the body of an emperor. In order to do so, he would have to go through 2 more heavens tribulations. Because of the source of energy, the 6th heavens tribulation shouldn't be a problem. But the seventh heaven's tribulation would be difficult. Therefore, Luli planned to cultivate for a while and consume all the elixirs in his interspatial ring to strengthen his body. After sorting out his thoughts, Luli didn't study the marks on the reliefs in the ancient temple. For him, learning one or two fundamental principles did not mean much. It could not improve his abilities in essence. Only by forming the body of an emperor and the embryonic form of the Dharma and becoming a real emperor realm warrior could his abilities soar. Luli continued to consume elixirs for the rest of the time. He consumed two kinds of elixirs, one to enhance his body and the other to enhance his soul. His soul was strong, but who would complain about having a strong soul? At the same time, Luli was refining his soul and his bones. He was trying to figure out how to form the embryonic form of the Dharma and how to do it. Emperor Rue had taught him, but Luli had to figure out what kind of Dharma to build on his own. Soon, 5 months had passed. Luli didn't even notice the time while he was cultivating. Today, he opened his eyes. After 5 months of cultivation, Luli had finally mastered how to build Dharma. "I will rest for 3 days, and then I will start," Luli murmured. He was looking forward to it. Dharma was not only a powerful move, but it also determined whether he could go further in the future. Chapter 28-25. There was only one chance to build a Dharma idol. There was no such thing as failure. The only thing that mattered was the quality. Therefore, the first attempt was crucial. If the first attempt was perfect, then the subsequent refinement would be more troublesome. Skyscrapers rose from the ground. To build a skyscraper, the foundation was crucial. If the foundation was solid, then the building could be tall. If the foundation was not solid, then no matter how fast and tall the building could be, it would eventually collapse. It was the same principle as cultivation. Luli had spent a long time to build a solid foundation. If the foundation was not stable, it would have a great impact on future development. Luli slept for several days. His mental state was at its peak. Still, he was not in a hurry to build the Dharma idol. Instead, he began to think, what should he build the Dharma idol into? According to the book given by Emperor Ray, Dharma idol could be made into any shape. The more realistic and flawless the Dharma idol was, the better its quality would be. Before Dharma idol was built, he must have a plan so that he could finish it at one go. At the end of the day, Dharma idol was a weapon. Every warrior had a different ideal weapon. Luli once saw the Dharma idol of Lunatic Tuesday. It was a warrior in black armor, riding a beast and holding a black spear. When the 5 Dharma idols attacked him, Luli had to take out the 7-colored glazed pagoda. His sovereign weapon was shattered at that time as well. Luli pondered for more than a day. He had made up his mind. He focused his mind on his own realm of Dharma. He began to mobilize his origin energy. He did not use much, only 300 strands, but it was enough to build the Dharma idol. He extracted the 300 strands of origin energy and put them together in midair. Under Lu Li's control, the 300 strands of origin energy came together and took shape. 3 days. After 3 days, Lu Li's Dharma idol finally took shape. It was a silver dragon. On the back of the dragon stood a warrior in white armor with a silver halberd in his hand. Dragon Warrior. This was the prototype of the Dharma form that Luli had been thinking about for a few days. To him, only a warrior who could ride a dragon was a powerful warrior. This silver dragon was formed according to the dragon pattern in his soul. It was vivid. The dragon scales, dragon head, dragon whiskers, and dragon claws were exactly the same as the silver dragon. It felt so real. As for the warriors up there, they looked similar to Lu Li. However, they were covered in silver armor, and their faces could not be seen clearly. This was the limit of what Lu Li could do. He could not make it any more detailed. Buzz! The divine dragon circled around his Dharma realm and flew back to the center of the world. It rushed into the ball of origin power and disappeared. Luli used his mind to extract more than 300 strands of origin energy and quickly formed the Dharma form of the divine dragon warrior. With the experience from the first time, the second time was fast. Luli didn't even have to worry about it. The second time was just like the first time. Luli observed for a moment and nodded with satisfaction. He opened his eyes, thought about it, and walked out. He wanted to try the power of the prototype of the Dharma form. He walked out of the ancient temple and flew to the south. As soon as he did so, the beasts nearby were alarmed. 3 huge beasts roared and charged over. Buzzing, Luli generated his Dharma form quickly. Behind him, there was a shadow of a huge dragon. On the back of the dragon stood a small man. The dragon roared and the small man screamed as well. They dashed toward the 3 beasts at the south. Boom! The beast at the front bumped into the Dharma form. There was a horrifying explosion. That beast was reduced to a mist of blood. The shockwave smashed away the other 2 beasts next to it. The 2 beasts were injured as well. They were smashed into 2 mountains in the distance. Hiss, hiss, Luli gasped. The Dharma form was more powerful than he had expected. Could it mean that his Dharma form was of good quality? Soon the 2 beasts came back. Luli generated 2 more Dharma forms to kill the 2 beasts. Well, Lunatic 2 can make 5 Dharma forms at the same time. I wonder if I could do the same? Luli thought of Lunatic 2 making 5 Dharma forms to attack. Luli focused his mind on the realm of Dharma, trying to make several Dharma forms at the same time. However, after he made 1 Dharma form, he tried to make the second one only to realize that it collapsed as soon as it was made. What is going on? Luli couldn't figure it out. He flew back to the ancient temple and browsed through the book given to him by Emperor Ray. There was no information about this. Luli touched his head in confusion and murmured, "What is going on? Why can't I make the second Dharma form?" Theoretically speaking, the first Dharma form and the second Dharma form should not conflict. If you want to make the second Dharma form, your first Dharma form must be completed. Right at that moment, a creepy voice suddenly came out, as if it came from the deepest level of hell. Luli's hair stood on end. Coldness rose in his eyes. He looked around but found nothing. He put up his guard and shouted, "Who is it? Please show yourself." "I am here. I am right in front of you." That creepy voice came again. Luli's pupils contracted. He looked at the stone statue in front of him. His lips trembled. Looking at the stone statue, he asked, "Sir, is that you?" The stone statue suddenly blinked, which made Luli tremble. He had checked the stone statue several times before. It was just a stone statue without any human features. Its skin was made of stone, and there was no sign of life. He didn't expect that it could come alive. The stone statue blinked again and looked at Luli. The voice came again, "Punk, not bad. You have made the embryonic form of the Dharma form perfectly for the first time. As long as you work hard on this Dharma form, there is a good chance that it will become a heaven-grade Dharma form." Luli was less nervous now, but he was still on guard. He cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, sir." "Sir, how did you become like this? Are you from the Celestial Emperor's sect as well?" After a moment of silence, the stone statue sighed and said, "I am the 3,988th generation disciple of the Celestial Emperor's sect. As for how I became like this, it is a long story." 3,988th generation? Luli's mouth twitched. He was the 9,600th generation disciple. This stone statue must be someone from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Was he a human or a ghost? Or was he an incomplete soul? Stop guessing. After a moment of silence, the stone statue said, as if he could read Luli's mind, "I died hundreds of thousands of years ago. What I have now is only an incomplete soul, thanks to this stone statue. Otherwise, I would not be able to keep my incomplete soul. Kid, don't be afraid. I was locked up in the purgatory region by my sect and went mad. But I do not hate my sect. I did something wrong. You are a disciple of my sect. I will not hurt you." Went mad and died. Luli was surprised. He remembered a rumor. A warrior of the great emperor realm was locked up in the purgatory region and he died. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.